The Night in the Great World of American TV Series. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1551. This Vulcan cannon is a modified version, with a 20mm caliber. Because it is equipped with an electromagnetic launch system, the muzzle velocity is terrifyingly high, reaching a terrifying 2060 meters per second, and the effective range is also terrifying 2600 meters. Coupled with a terrifying firing rate of 1000 rounds per minute for ground targets, with a special warhead, it is enough to tear an armored vehicle into pieces within 3 seconds. So when the bullets hit Snit and his men, they were immediately knocked to the ground. Mark, who is in the worst physical condition, even vomited blood. "Start the protective shield," Snit shouted hurriedly. With the size of Snit, a blue protective shield soon appeared on their individual mechas. This is a function that the mecha itself has, and the defense is beyond words. The only drawback is that it has high energy requirements. Although Adrian and his group repaired these mechas, they failed to repair their charging devices. That thing is very similar to a charging pile, but when the Chitauri's aircraft fell, it was too broken to be put together at all. So they can only DIY the charger themselves. The result was that a mecha was blown up. In the end, they could only use the inefficient primitive method to charge. Connect the wires and charge directly. The Chitauri mechas are very durable and can be used for charging. But the charging thing is not compatible with the previous charging, and the energy used for charging is very small. So the energy of the mecha has always been a big problem. Although it can't achieve the effect of charging for 1 hour and talking for 2 minutes. But it is also a dilemma of charging for 1 day and shielding for more than 10 minutes. And the shield has a disadvantage. It consumes energy after it is turned on. At the same time, if the protective shield is hit, it will continue to consume energy according to the strength of the attack. The greater the attack power, the more serious the energy consumption. This is why they didn't turn on the shield before. It consumes too much electricity. But now they have to turn it on. Otherwise, those bullets alone can kill them. This is also the disadvantage of the Chitauri mecha. They use biomodal. Although it has the advantages of automatic repair and seamless fit to their body shape, it also has disadvantages, that is, it is not as hard as usual. Ordinary pistols, rifles, and mechas are naturally no problem. But the sniper rifle is a bit troublesome. Although it won't be penetrated, the force will still be transmitted, and it will still hurt. Now this is even more exaggerated. Directly use the Vulcan cannon. Even if it can't penetrate the mecha, the powerful kinetic energy brought by the bullet alone can shock them to death. It's like a stick. You can withstand a stick, but if you are hit hard by the stick, you will still be killed. So you can only turn on the shield. In fact, the Chitauri mecha is more about enhancing the user's strength and agility, and defense still depends on energy shields. The Chitauri are a cosmic race with very advanced technology. You can't let them carry cold weapons and fight people in melee, right? Although they also have such a habit, they are the lowest level soldiers. One incubator can hatch dozens or hundreds of them in one cycle. Those who can wear mechas are all high-level Chitauri. They are different from those soldiers. They are specially prepared high-end goods with their own thinking, not entirely controlled by hive thinking. The price is naturally different. It's a waste for them to fight in melee. It's like no country would let its aircraft go up with a shovel to fight the enemy in hand-to-hand combat. That's the job of the army cannon fodder. Oh, except for Japan. I heard that Japanese pilots always carry a knife when they go up. In short, when this mecha was originally designed, it was not thought that the mecha itself would resist the attack. Those things were left to the energy shield. Damn. How many bullets did he prepare? And that bastard Skade. After escaping this time, I must break his neck, but it must be said that the energy shield is really awesome. When bullets hit it, they will only turn into ripples and it is impossible to cause any harm to them. It's just that the energy value displayed on the display inside the mecha made them a little scared. This thing is easy to use, but it really consumes electricity. Seeing the energy value drop rapidly, Heatwave was a little impatient. Mark, Snart knew that this was not a solution, and immediately shouted to Mark, "Hold up the fog. We can't let them fire at us without scruples in this field of view." Understood. Mark immediately waved his arms, and a cloud of fog quickly spread around them. "Get ready to run," However, Frank had a lot of combat experience. When he saw them propping up the fog, he knew what this group of people were going to do. So he released a Vulcan cannon and turned around to open another box. There was a rocket launcher inside. Without any hesitation, "Fire in the hole," with Frank's shout. A rocket rushed to the door of the bank with a tail flame. Fuck, the fog reduced visibility a lot, but it was not to the point where you couldn't really see anything. At least the tail flame of the rocket was still very dazzling. Heatwave just ran a few steps and saw rocket whizzing over. "Lie down," he immediately shouted at the top of his voice. Snart and Mark opened the shield immediately without any hesitation, and then lay on the ground. Snart was smarter. While he lay down, he also tried to shrink himself. Because he found that the shield is actually stretched according to the size of the individual. If you reduce your size a little, the shield will also shrink. He didn't know if this would save some energy, but he decided to give it a try. Boom. There were constant gunshots and explosions outside. This made the girls a little shocked. It was like being on a battlefield. At the same time, Teresa and Keith squatted beside Logan. Their eyes were full of tears. Because Logan had just saved them. He grabbed them and threw them back, and he blocked the impact of the flames. As a result, they were fine, but Logan's front had become a piece of charcoal. You could even see the skull on his face. This made the two girls regretful and sad. They thought that Logan had risked his life to save them. Only then did Kai come late. When Teresa saw Kai, she didn't care to blame Kai for not coming earlier, but grabbed Kai's clothes. "Wayne, Dad. Save Logan. He's dying." Logan was not very good at dealing with children, so in fact, although Kai's children had met Logan, they were not close. On the contrary, Frank was very popular with the children. Frank seemed to be born with facial paralysis. Apart from anger, he was expressionless. In addition to his appearance, he looked like a stranger and was difficult to get along with. But Frank was not like that in front of the children. He had children, a son and a daughter, and he was very close to them. So he was very good at communicating with children. At least Kai's children liked Frank very much. Who? Kai was stunned. Who was dying? Logan. Oh, it's okay then. Kai waved his hand, relieved. Chapter 1552 First update. Why are you like this? Teresa seemed to be meeting Kai for the first time. She was so cold-blooded to her friend who came to help her. Kai was also a rogue. Did these kids ever pay attention to Logan? How many times has he been to your house? Even if he is a stranger, you can know something about him, right? So you really treat him as a passerby? Can anyone enter your father's house? Keith was also very angry. She rushed over and grabbed Kai's palm. You definitely have a way to save him. Hurry up. Hurry up and save him. If you can save him. I will. Kai was interested instead. You what? Despicable. Teresa attacked her father's character again. Kai ignored her. To be honest, he always suspected that little Bernard would be so stupid and cute. It must be because of family inheritance. At least Kai felt that Teresa was always, well, how to say, naive? In short, she didn't seem very smart. Keith was very regretful. She had been rushing around before, but in the end, not only did she not contribute at all, but she also killed Logan. This made Keith feel hurt. So she wanted to do something. Keith was essentially a good kid. Although she dressed up in a mess, was crazy, liked explosions and bullets, and didn't care about anything once she got excited, this didn't affect her being a good girl. I'll call you Daddy. Strictly speaking, there was nothing wrong with Keith calling Kai Daddy. After all, Kai was her guardian at the legal level. It has always been a man's dream to let a young girl call him Daddy. Although it's a bit erotic to say this, the principle is the same. When the author was in college, she often asked her roommates to call her Daddy. Unfortunately, these grandsons were too ruthless and always refused to acknowledge this relationship, which made the author very sad. In short, being a father is the deepest desire of human beings. Even superpowers like the Soviet Union and the United States are no exception. They started just to make the whole world call them Daddy. In short, Kai accepted this request. No problem, the two girls immediately cheered up. Although Teresa and Keith always liked to make trouble for Kai, to be honest, if they were to say who they trusted the most, it would really be Kai. This could probably be attributed to the little girls' admiration for their father. After all, Kai was indeed the father. They never felt that anything could stump Kai. So they watched with hope as Kai walked step by step to Logan's side. Then he raised his foot. Then he kicked Logan. WTF. Get up, you scared the children. Then something magical happened. The charred part of Logan's body began to crack and fall off, revealing the bloody bones and internal organs. The little girls closed their eyes, it was too bloody. Then countless fresh flesh and blood began to grow wildly, and the damaged internal organs began to be repaired. Outsiders could even see the damaged intestines growing back little by little, covering the mess inside and starting to wriggle again. Next came the muscles. The muscles, like living threads, alternately covered the exposed chest and abdomen. The silvery bones were also covered. Soon, a perfectly skinned prosthetic teacher appeared in front of everyone. There were no medical students here, otherwise they would have been amazed at the perfection of this muscle. Soon came the skin. His skin recovery was also very scary. First, white spots appeared on the surface of the muscles, and then the white spread quickly from the spots to the surface. At this time, Logan also woke up. Fuck. I feel my brain boiling. This is a feeling that only Logan can experience. Most people die before their brains boil, but Logan is different. His powerful regeneration ability allows him to clearly feel that his brain is boiling like boiling water. Then water vapor spurts out of his 7 orifices. That feeling is too sour and refreshing. Of course, it would be better if his face could recover when he spoke. When Logan stood up and spoke to Kai, the flesh on his face had not grown back yet. He looked like a half-rotten skeleton suddenly speaking. From his cheek, the bully could even see his little tongue. Fuck. Can you cover yourself up first? There are little girls here, be careful, they will accuse you of sexually harassing minors. Kai took off his coat and threw it to Logan. Logan looked normal, he was over 100 years old, he had experienced everything, it was nothing. Fuck. Banner is really unreliable. What polymer shorts, but it was burned to ashes. Logan used Kai's coat to wrap himself up, while complaining about Dr. Banner's unreliability. As we all know, Banner always experiences some embarrassing scenes when he transforms into the Hulk. His clothes are all ruined. It was embarrassing when he changed from Hulk back to Banner. Without clothes, Banner is not the Hulk, and he knows what it means to be naked in public. In fact, Banner was accused of exposing his body in public. In order to avoid this embarrassment, the clever Dr. Banner planned to design a pair of shorts for himself, at least not to embarrass himself. This kind of shorts must have super high elasticity and good strength. Hulk will not care about shorts when fighting. So far, this kind of shorts has performed well. So Banner promoted this kind of shorts in his circle of friends. Logan is actually one of his friends. Although it is incredible to say, Logan is indeed Banner's circle of friends. In fact, strictly speaking, Banner and Logan are not too close, but Hulk and Logan are closer. Hulk doesn't have many friends. In addition to Logan, there is only the Stone Man in the Fantastic Four. The common point between these two people is that they are not afraid of Hulk. Logan is invincible and the Stone Man is indestructible. So they can have a good relationship with Hulk. So Logan also obtained Banner's shorts friend qualification. But at present, this kind of short still has problems. That is, it is not very fireproof. At least it can't prevent high temperature flames. That thing can actually melt, can you believe it? After it melted, it wrapped around my little brother. Can you imagine how that feels? Kai and Daredevil both silently tightened their thighs. Don't dare to think about it. It hurts. Chapter 1553 Second Update. Teresa and Keith looked at Logan stupidly. They could not imagine that Logan, who was just a charred corpse, was now standing in front of them. Liz and Emma were emotionally stable. Except for being frightened by Logan's regeneration, they were fine. Emma was smart and had superpowers, so she could easily detect Logan's situation. Liz had a good understanding of other people's information. Liz used to be like Teresa and the others. She was carefree and didn't have to worry about anything. She just had to be happy. But after her father Adrian passed away, Liz changed a lot. She quickly changed from a confident and outspoken character to an unconfident little girl who cared about other people's feelings. There was no way. In the past, her father was a successful businessman and didn't have to worry about money. She was naturally confident and proud of her father. But until her father's death, everything changed. Not only did her father die, but he was also very dishonorable. He became a criminal she despised the most. This made a big difference in Liz's life. Inevitably, her father's affairs were spread to the school, and all kinds of rumors were spread, which turned her from a school favorite into a joke. Of course, this is what she thought. Although high school students like to compete with each other, they have to choose the right person. Liz's grades are very good and she is so beautiful. Even if something bad happened to her, it would not make her a target of public condemnation. Moreover, the New York Police Department has never made public the affairs of her father. Although there are some rumors, they cannot be proved. In addition, Midtown High School is one of the best high schools in the United States. Although there are many problems in such high schools, they are not too extreme. So her situation in school is not that bad. What's more, she has the help of Teresa, Gwen and Harry, and basically no one will bully her on purpose. But it's not like this for her. Her own state of mind has changed. She has become sensitive, unconfident, and even cautious. She has become concerned about what others think of her. This kind of personality is of course abnormal. But it's good enough. At least there is a group of little sisters who always support her and even become superheroes, which gives her great comfort. Because she often went to Kai's house to play, Logan had seen him before, so she also consciously collected information about those visitors, intending to avoid colliding with other people. To bring trouble to Kai, or to her sisters' families. You know, these sisters have become extremely important to her. So she knew Logan's information. Knowing that he has a super regenerative ability. Other people's children are always very well behaved. This may be a problem that all parents have to face. But at the moment, this sensitive girl is thinking about something else. Do we really not have to worry about the outside? Teresa and Keith immediately stopped worrying about Logan's question and shouted, yes. Hurry up and let Frank stop, we will deal with those bastards ourselves. Boom. The flames and the hot wind blew the mist away. Fuck. Is this guy crazy? Losing the use of rockets in New York, Mark waited until the mist dissipated, and immediately found that another rocket with a tail flame was flying towards them. Mark is a gangster, the kind who doesn't care about his life. But there is a limit to how desperate one is. At least he dare not hold a rocket in the street. Because if he really does that, he is not a gangster, but a terrorist. After 9/11, the United States has been relaxed on terrorism-related cases. In general cases, public opinion and the government will supervise law enforcement agencies and let them act in accordance with rules and regulations. But after 9/11, all this is ineffective for terrorism-related cases. Law enforcement agencies can actually use any means to deal with terrorists. These include but are not limited to illegal wiretapping, illegal interrogation, illegal intrusion, and other methods that were absolutely not allowed before. Of course, no one will say this openly. It's just that some law enforcement operations are selectively ignored. Generally speaking, gangsters are more reckless than policemen. After all, the police only make a few dollars a month. Why risk their lives? So you can often see that gangsters use automatic and semi-automatic weapons, while the police can only fight with pistols. Because the effects of collateral damage are completely different. If gangsters injure passers-by, at most their sentences will be increased. After all, they have exchanged fire with the police with guns. No matter where in the United States, it is a felony and the sentence is very heavy. Basically, they are the kind that you would never think of coming out of your life, so even if you beat a passerby to death, it's nothing. Is there a difference between one life sentence and 2 life sentences? But the police are different. If the police accidentally injure a passerby, it will be a lot of fun. The media will almost fall into a carnival. The police involved will either be suspended, or worse, the police station will have to pay money, a lot of money. The lawyer will tell the court from various angles how negligent the police's actions are. Because from the perspective of the victims, they would rather the police let the criminals go than get hurt. But for the police, they have no choice at all. After all, if they let the criminals go, they will still be scolded by the media. In the United States, being a police officer has never been a good job. It is a sandwich. No matter what they do, they will be criticized. So the police will use force quite restrainedly. But the current situation is outrageous. They are obviously the righteous party, but they use excessive force in the city. It's more excessive than these criminals. Aren't they afraid of accidental injuries? In fact, there was no possibility of accidental injury. As early as Master Mirror determined their destination, the police station in this area began to take action. Even now, police were arranged at the surrounding intersections to block them. Ordinary people who wanted to come here would be persuaded to leave. They trusted Master Mirror too much before, thinking that there would be no problem with him spreading the word. As a result, now they are trapped. This bunch of lunatics, use your flexible brain to think of a solution. Snart, fuck. How can I think of a solution? Snart was panicked. Someone above had occupied the commanding heights and had been shooting down at them. They couldn't fly, and on the ground. Fuck, it was even more unlucky. There were still a bunch of big guys in the bank. He was now between a tiger in front and a wolf behind. They were treated as a sandwich. Of course. Snart was just venting his anger, and naturally he couldn't just surrender. Mark. Can lightning hit that place? It's too far. The sniper rifles before were fine. They were not professionals and could not confirm the enemy's position based on the trajectory of the sniper rifles. The Vulcan cannons and rockets behind, especially the rockets, were too obvious. They found Frank's position. It can be hit, but it can't be too accurate. Frank's straight-line distance from them was more than 1,500 meters. Mark had never tried to attack from such a distance. Try your best. We can't run if we don't get him. Chapter 1554 First Update. Mark looked at the fire flashing again on the tall building in the distance. That meant the Vulcan cannon was showing its power again. He knew what Snart said was right. If they didn't destroy this firepower point, they would have trouble escaping, and even whether they could survive would be a problem. Their energy shield couldn't withstand such a long period of firepower coverage. So they could only concentrate. This was the first time he used his ability to attack such a far place. He had never tried to attack such a far target before when he robbed or attacked the Flash. After all, it was not necessary. So he could only try his best. Frank suddenly felt that something was wrong in the air. The water vapor was a bit heavy, and he felt a little stuffy. Looking up, he saw a dark cloud above his head. Frank, who felt something was wrong, immediately understood what happened. He miscalculated. In the information he had obtained, it was never mentioned that the weather wizard always had the ability to attack from a long distance. Thinking of this, without any hesitation, he took out a plastic bandage from his pocket, tied it to the trigger of the Vulcan cannon, and then turned around and ran downstairs. Facts have proved that his decision was correct. Not long after he ran into the corridor, he heard a loud bang. A bolt of lightning fell fiercely on the roof. Frank didn't hesitate and jumped down the stairs. Sure enough, not long after he jumped down, another explosion was heard. The whole building shook, and from time to time, concrete fragments fell from the upper floors. There was a secondary explosion. No one knew better than Frank how many weapons and ammunition he had transported on the roof. Those things would not be fun to explode. So Frank ran away very smoothly. Hit it, Mark shouted excitedly. Of course, Snart was also very happy, but now was not the time to be happy. Go. There are still people in the bank. Mark reacted immediately. Yes, it hasn't succeeded yet. What's the point of being excited? After saying that, he immediately waved his arms and mobilized the airflow, intending to take Snart and Heatwave away directly. However, before his action was successful, a naked man rushed out of the bank with a roar. Heatwave was the most unlucky, who told him to be closest to the bank door. Before he could react, the naked man suddenly appeared in his face. The scene was really shocking. Logan was never particular about details. Being naked was a minor issue for him. What was worse was that he was not afraid of the fatal blow. This was a terrorist attack that any man was afraid of, so generally speaking, men were very reluctant to reveal their biggest weakness to others. After all, if this thing was broken, it was really broken, and there was no place to repair it, so except for a few perverts, no one would expose their weaknesses. But Logan was different. He didn't care. If it was broken, it was broken. After he castrated himself, it grew back in a few seconds, brand new. He could say he was a virgin again. So his fighting style had always been very unrestrained, and he didn't care about exposing his weaknesses at all. For example, now, who would fly and pounce on the enemy with their legs spread? But Logan dared. Every man would be afraid, except for the cunning Zero. Heatwave was not Zero, let alone one. He was a straight man. He was so panicked that he even forgot to use the heat gun in his hand. He was so panicked that he didn't know what to do. It's not that he didn't use it, but that he had never experienced it before. Anyone who encounters something beyond his life experience will feel panic. So Heatwave can only use the most primitive method. He waved his hands and punched the turtle fist, hoping to block the thing in front of him. However, Logan is not really a pervert. This is a strategy. Do you understand strategy? The mental attack at the beginning gives people a thrilling feeling. That is to divert attention. Do you understand the feint to the east and attack in the west? It's not that he was tripped when he ran out. Seeing Heatwave waving his hands, Logan seized the opportunity and clawed down, cutting the heat gun in Heatwave's hand into 4 pieces at once. However, Logan obviously didn't expect that after Heatwave's heat gun was cut, it would explode. Boom. Logan flew out for no reason, but turned into a charred corpse and flew back. He also blew Dick to pieces, by the way. Who told him to throw it away casually? But this time, the girls said that they were emotionally stable. There was no radical action. Wayne Dad, Teresa came to Kai's side and asked quietly, "Has Logan always been like this?" Kai was a little embarrassed. After all, they were all friends. He could certainly insult Logan in front of others, but in front of children. You know, adults have a great influence on children. If one thing is not good, Logan's reputation will be ruined. He didn't want his children to be rude to Logan. No, he is not ready. Logan is still very powerful. Did you see his claws? That's adamantium. His entire body is made of adamantium. It's indestructible. Very powerful. Teresa always felt that there was something wrong. But she couldn't say it. However, facing her father, Teresa couldn't say anything. She just remembered it silently and told her sisters to stay away from this exhibitionist in the future. Heatwave, Snart was also shocked by the explosion, but he immediately went to find his good brother. But when he broke through the smoke and dust and found Heatwave, Snart immediately found that Heatwave was beyond saving. Although he didn't die, one of his arms was blown off. After the heat gun was cut off, the powerful energy exploded directly at Heatwave's face, and Heatwave didn't turn on the protective shield. Just after Mark used the thunder to kill the high ground, they all turned off the protective shield. The heat gun exploded in Heatwave's hand again, and the powerful explosion only took away Heatwave's arm. The performance of the Chitauri Metro was already good. Seeing such enthusiasm, Snart did not hesitate at all and shouted to Mark decisively, "Mark, let's go." Mark was stunned. "What about Heatwave?" "No way. We will die if we take him with us. It's better to leave him to the police. At least the police will save him." Snart really didn't want to save Heatwave, but he couldn't save him at all. Heatwave's arm was blown off. This is not counting the other injuries caused by the explosion. With this level of injury, even if they take him away, there is no way to treat him. He will still die at that time. It's better to stay where he is. The police will arrange first aid. On this point, you can still trust the police. And it's free. Chapter 1555 Second Update. Mark didn't talk much about loyalty. He used to be a Lone Ranger, and only acted with his brother. There was nothing to say about his brother, but for others, why do you think he only acted with his brother? Since Snart said there was no problem, he was too tired to stand up and talk about loyalty? And Snart was right. If they took away Heatwave now, Heatwave would definitely die. They were running away, so where would the world come to give Heatwave emergency treatment? When they were safe, Heatwave would probably be dead. So without any hesitation, Mark waved his hand, and a stream of air took Mark and Snart to the sky. Don't let them run away. Liz, Case ran out first, just in time to see Mark running away with Snart. Case immediately shouted to Liz. Liz didn't hesitate, and directly spread the steel wings behind her, grabbed Case and chased him to the sky. Wait for me. I haven't gotten in the car yet. And me, Teresa likes to learn everything from Case, because she thinks Case is cool, much cooler than her. But unfortunately, she didn't catch the car. But Teresa had a way. She turned around and grabbed Kai, who was teasing little Bernard to eat green peppers. Wayne Dad. Hurry up. Take us to catch up. Kai was fighting wits and courage with a picky eater Bernard, and didn't know what happened. Alice, only after becoming a parent can you understand the hardships of raising a child. When he was still a child, there was no problem of picky eating. If he didn't eat, you would know what was delicious if you gave him 2 ears of melon seeds. And green peppers are delicious. And nutritious, but why didn't this child eat it? Picky eating is not good. As for what is bad, Kai actually doesn't know, but everyone says so. There must be a reason. Kai thinks it can't be like this. But since his eldest daughter is looking for him, Kai can only let it go for the time being, and decides to make shredded pork with green peppers for little Bernard after returning home. Kai has no experience. Even after so many years, he still thinks shredded pork with green peppers is the most delicious dish. What's the matter? Take me after him. Who? Where? A man or a woman? Bah. Who are you chasing? The gang members ran away. Liz and Keith ran away too. Help me catch up with them. Teresa was almost dying of anxiety. Speaking of which, it was also very strange. Teresa was such a big girl, but no one pursued her at school. Although Kai didn't want Teresa to fall in love at such a young age, it was very embarrassing if no one pursued her in high school in the United States. So Kai was also very anxious. Whether to fall in love or not is one thing, and whether there is anyone pursuing her is another. Kai attributed the reason to Teresa's terrible dress. There was nothing wrong with her, but she actually liked death rock. Is that stuff good? Of course Teresa disagreed. She felt that it was Kai's rude interference that made boys afraid to approach. Hurry up. Otherwise they will really run away. Kai was helpless, but he looked at Emma and Teresa. But I have to hold Bernard, so I can only hold one more person. Emma climbed up Kai's trouser legs without saying a word, and sat comfortably in Kai's arms. Kai looked at Teresa, and Teresa looked at Emma. Emma said calmly, "You are a big girl, you can't let Wayne Dad hold you." Teresa was speechless immediately. She is a big girl. Teresa had no choice but to look at Kai with tears in her eyes. She didn't care. Seeing Teresa like this, Kai softened his heart again. Although the eldest daughter is old and not very cute, she is still his daughter, and he can't treat her too differently. But Kai was a little unwilling to agree to her so easily. So Kai had a way. Kai turned his wrist and a broken hammer appeared in his hand. It is Mjolnir. Mjolnir was used by the Valkyrie Brunhild in the Battle of Asgard, but was finally given to Kai by Thor. Although the artifact is rare, Thor has the Spear of Eternity, so he can't use Mjolnir for the time being. The key is that he can't use it either, because Mjolnir doesn't let him use it. As for Brunhild, she actually has her own artifact. The Dragon-Tooth Sword. The origin of this sword is very amazing. It was a gift given to Odin by the supreme sorcerer Cassida several generations ago. This sword was carved from a dragon's fang by a woman named Cassida when she was training in other dimensions. It's very powerful. However, this artifact is not in Asgard at present. It was taken away by the last Valkyrie. Her name is Valkyrie. When the Valkyrie Legion fought against Hela, the whole army was wiped out and only the last and youngest Valkyrie survived. The death of her companions and her own survival made her disheartened. At the same time, she hated what Odin did. After all, Hela was created by Odin. So she chose self-exile and changed her name to Valkyrie to commemorate her deceased sister. Now Asgard is trying various ways to find the Valkyrie. Of course, it is mainly Brunhild who wants to find her dragon-tooth sword, but Thor has asked the Dwarf King to make a new artifact for her. By the way, Thor also hopes that the Dwarf King can make another hammer for him. He feels insecure without a hammer. In short, Kai took the hammer when he left Asgard. Thor gave it to Kai. It is a commemoration of the two sides fighting side by side. Kai didn't care. Giving him this hammer would not really increase his combat power. The main thing is handsome. Since Thor gave it to him, he would naturally not refuse it. Kai remembered the hammer at this moment. When Kai took it out again, Mjolnir immediately showed excitement. The lightning on it flashed. Teresa was immediately attracted. For me, of course Teresa wanted it. Apart from anything else, this thing looked very cool. Okay, but there are conditions. Kai certainly couldn't give Mjolnir to Teresa so easily. Okay. Anything. Teresa only had Mjolnir in her eyes. First, change your messy makeup. You made a good girl look like Marilyn Manson. What do you want? Second, you must be obedient in the future. Otherwise I will take back the hammer. Third, Teresa's face turned into sorrow when she heard the first two requirements. She painted herself into that weird look at first just to make herself cool and special, but after a few years, she really fell in love with it. What should she do? And being obedient. This range is too wide. Oh, there's a third point. Why are there so many? She didn't want the hammer anymore. Third, where can he find the third point in a short time? Forget it, let's talk about it after the third time. I haven't decided yet, how about it? It's up to you whether you want it or not. Kai held up the hammer and looked at Teresa. Teresa hesitated for a while, and finally gritted her teeth and said, okay. After saying that, she directly snatched the hammer. Surprisingly, Mjolnir didn't resist Teresa. Maybe he was too pent up? Crack! The sky fused. Dark clouds began to appear out of thin air, and countless dark clouds kept rolling and gathering in the sky like a tide. Crack! Countless lightning bolts in the clouds vented their anger like a dragon. The ground illuminated by the lightning turned pale. Teresa felt a force pouring into her body from the hammer, and her body was lifted up by a force and floated in the air. Crack! A bolt of lightning hit her directly. But she didn't feel any discomfort. Instead, those lightning bolts turned into small pieces of armor and began to combine into a piece of armor on Teresa's body. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1556 First update. Then came the helmet, and then the cape. Actually, it was the female version of Thor's outfit, and this outfit immediately increased Teresa's charm by 200%. At least it was definitely much better than that damn visual outfit. Hoo-ha, Teresa felt really good. She felt that her whole body was full of strength, as if she had endless strength. It felt great. Then she opened her eyes and saw her changes. Ha ha ha. So amazing. So great. After saying that, she didn't care that Kai was holding the two little ones, and directly hugged Kai and gave Kai a series of fatal kisses. The two little ones were squeezed so hard that they screamed. At this time, little Bernard grabbed Kai's ears. Dad, I want that hammer. I want that hammer. Kai was stunned and looked at his little baby. What's wrong? Don't you want the Thompsons anymore? Little Bernard was entangled. Although the hammer was also very beautiful, she also wanted the Thompson horror house toy set. Emma glanced at her stupid sister with disdain. Plastic toys are not as good as Thor's hammer. So Emma also hugged Kai's neck shyly. Dad Wayne, I want that hammer too. Let Teresa give it to me. She will only cause trouble if she takes it. Give it to me, I will definitely be careful. Emma's words really made Kai hesitate. After all, Teresa's personality is still a bit jumpy. If she uses the hammer casually, it might really go wrong. There is no way. This thing is too lethal. Teresa is not careful. If she hurts someone, it will be really bad. Seeing Kai's expression wavering, Teresa immediately screamed, Dad Wayne. You just promised me, but Emma is right. If you use Mjolnir casually, it will really cause great losses. I will use it to do good things. It's not a question of doing good things or not. I'm just afraid that you will mess around. This thing is too destructive. Kai is still worried. Although even if Teresa really caused trouble, Kai is confident that he can handle it. But it goes against Kai's original intention of giving her the hammer. Although he reluctantly agreed to Teresa and the others to do what they like, he didn't want them to become a nuisance to the public. No matter what the reason is, you can't let good people get hurt just to catch a few bad guys, right? So who is the bad guy? Anyway, Emma's words made Kai silent. Wayne Dad, seeing Kai silent, Teresa became more anxious. She glared at Emma fiercely. Emma immediately hid in Kai's arms. After all, although she wanted the hammer a little, it was not what Emma wanted to see that her sister was really sad. Remember, do you agree to my 3 requests? Kai asked. Kai also knew that if he took back the hammer at this time, Teresa would probably be very sad, so Kai had to find another way. Remember, she still remembered that Kai didn't finish the 3rd point. Then I'm going to make a 3rd request. Teresa looked at Kai nervously, fearing that the 3rd request would be to take back the hammer. That is absolutely. It can definitely hurt ordinary people. It can't cause a big riot either. If you can't do it, I will take the hammer back immediately. And you will be put in solitary confinement. I agree. Teresa didn't want to leave the hammer now, even to sleep with it. So she agreed. Don't think I'm just talking, I'll do what I say. In order to ensure Teresa remembers, Kai stretched out his hand. And the hammer broke away from Teresa's palm and fell into Kai's hand. Teresa immediately felt the strength of her body rapidly fading. Kai was actually very surprised. Damn, it really worked. In fact, he wanted to dodge it violently, but as soon as he stretched out his hand, the hammer came over by itself. Kai glanced at Mjolnir lightly. This hammer really has some personality. However, Kai didn't delve into it. After all, he succeeded in pretending to be awesome. Teresa stared at Kai in amazement, not expecting there was such a trick. Doesn't this mean that Kai can take back the hammer if he wants to? Thinking of this, Teresa understood that Kai was really not joking. I understand. I promise." Seeing that Teresa was so serious, Kai was satisfied. So he handed her the hammer. On the other side, Rorschach finally caught up with Jesse. In fact, Rorschach's action of catching up with Jesse was quite dangerous. It was dangerous to approach Jesse, and now he was wearing a Chitauri mecha, which made it even more difficult to deal with. "It seems that you are the only one chasing after him." Jesse looked at Rorschach, who was chasing after him alone, and was relieved immediately. "I can deal with you alone." Rorschach's tone did not fluctuate at all. It seemed that he could deal with Jesse alone. In fact, Rorschach knew that he was not Jesse's opponent, but his belief made it impossible for him to let Jesse go. Not to mention, was he really alone? Of course not. Don't forget, there was a dragnet set up around here. Otherwise, why do you think Kai was so relaxed? Was he really confident? Don't forget that Kai is a policeman. No matter how confident he is, he will prepare everything he should prepare. It's not a problem if it's not used, it's a problem if it's not prepared. They all have positioning devices installed on them. If Rorschach suddenly runs out, the special police officers around will rush over immediately. Rorschach doesn't need to defeat Jesse, he just needs to hold him back. Then let's see what you have. After saying that, Jesse took out a rag doll from his arms. This is Jesse's invention, a puppet doll. This kind of doll can fly for a short time, and can be pre-installed with poison gas or bombs according to Jesse's needs. It is one of Jesse's iconic weapons. He used it in the bank before. That time, he used poison gas, but it was blown away by Mark's gust of wind. This time, no one knows what is in the doll. Jesse didn't make any moves. The doll suddenly opened its mouth and laughed shrilly, then pounced on Rorschach. Rorschach kicked the trash can next to him, and the lid of the trash can suddenly flew up. Rorschach kicked again, and the lid rushed towards the doll. Boom! The doll is filled with a bomb. Facing the explosion, Rorschach not only did not dodge at all, but rushed into the flames caused by the explosion with his head held high, and rushed straight to Jesse. Jesse obviously did not expect that someone would be so reckless. When he took out another doll, Rorschach suddenly came in front of him. He grabbed Jesse's hand holding the doll, twisted it, and the doll fell to the ground. When Rorschach was about to throw Jesse to the ground over his shoulder, suddenly a burst of fire spurted out from under Jesse's feet, and the whole person rushed into the sky. Rorschach was brought into the air, and had no choice but to let go of Rorschach from the air. Jesse looked at Rorschach, who fell to the ground in embarrassment, and a scornful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. But soon, he could not laugh anymore, because he saw that there was a small metal disc with two flashing lights on his wrist. When he just wanted to reach out and take the thing off, suddenly, a strong electric current made his eyes black. Chapter 1557 Second Update. This weapon was originally a product of SYNOPSIS, an electric patch. It is the one used by Natasha, the Black Widow, which can output ultra-high current to instantly disintegrate the enemy's weapon. It is a non-lethal weapon. Later, Natasha jumped to Stark Group, and Tony upgraded her equipment a little bit. Among them is the SYNOPSIS electric patch. In the past, the electric patch was not actually called this name, it was called an electric shock device, which was a smaller disc device, not big and could be carried around. But the thickness is still about 3 centimeters. The volume is still too large. Tony upgraded this weapon and made it into a real patch, which is only the thickness of 2 or 3 pieces of paper. The advantage is that it is easy to carry and easy to use. The disadvantage is that it cannot be recycled and will be scrapped after one use. In addition, the cost is relatively expensive. Of course, Tony doesn't care much about this. Natasha said it was good after using it. Sage has done everything he can for the special department. He hopes to ask for any good things he sees from the special department. This thing is also because of Saji's pestering. Kai has no choice. Kai found Tony and asked Stark to specially supply the equipment to the special forces. Anyway, it is non-lethal equipment, so it is not taboo. Some people said that Jesse was wearing a Chitauri mecha. How could it be dealt with by such a small electric shock? Is it so weak? However, it is still the same. Different needs lead to completely different designs of mechas. The Chitauri are half mechanical and half flesh creatures. They are much more tolerant to many extreme environments than humans. In other words, they are much more tolerant to electric shocks than humans. The electric current that can paralyze people is nothing to the Chitauri. So for them, giving the mecha the effect of blocking electric current is completely a waste of time. There is no need at all. Moreover, Although biometal has many advantages, it has no effect of blocking electric current. The cosmic civilization must also abide by the laws of physics. It is an organic life form and it is made of metal. How can it be protected from electricity? And even if there is such a strong current, there is a protective shield. Why do you need a mecha to resist it? There is no need at all. So this thing is not anti-electric at all. But Jesse doesn't know. So he got hit. This is the basic cultural difference between the two civilizations. What the Chitauri think is insignificant is fatal to humans. Fortunately, the mecha has a basic life support system. After Jesse fell into coma, it immediately began to wake him up. However, the physiological structures of the two civilizations are completely different. There are always some differences. The mecha woke up Jesse's brain, but the problem is that the mecha did not remove the spasm and paralysis effects on Jesse. After all, the Chitauri will not specialize in the physiological structure of humans. It is enough for the Chitauri, but it is a half-baked water for humans. So Jesse is in pain now. He was tortured by the electric current and wanted to die, but the mecha gave him this set. So he is very clear-headed now, but his body is in a bad state. Obviously, the electric current was enough to make him comatose, but now he can't faint, so he just came with a full set. He suffered all without any damage. Rorschach was surprised that this person was so weak. He originally thought that electric shock would have no effect on him. Unexpectedly, the effect was surprisingly good. Thinking of this, Rorschach immediately took out a stack of electric shock tablets from his pocket. He didn't need this guy alive, so he just gave him a stack and electrocuted him to death. But when he threw out the electric shock tablets again, a blue light shield blocked all the electric shock tablets. Jesse is not stupid. Suffering a loss is enough. With strong willpower, Jesse gradually took control of his body, and he stood up tremblingly. A cruel smile appeared on his originally handsome face. It's really good, I actually suffered such a big loss. It reminds me of the good life in the mental hospital. Those doctors used some kind of electric shock therapy to correct my mental illness. But you are much more cruel than them. Electric shock therapy has been used in the medical field for a long time. As early as more than 70 years ago, many doctors began to use electric shock therapy. At that time, it was called electric shock therapy. It has a significant effect on the treatment of mental and psychological diseases such as depression, mania and schizophrenia. However, this therapy does not use anesthesia during the treatment process, and patients may experience systemic convulsions, which puts them under great physical and psychological tests. Later, improvements were made, and an appropriate amount of anesthetics and muscle relaxants were injected during the electric shock. When the patient entered a state of sleep, was unconscious and had relaxed muscles, the formal treatment would begin. The intensity of the current would also be reduced a lot, trying to prevent the patient from suffering. Of course, Jesse was a seriously ill patient, the kind who had no human rights. In a mental hospital, sometimes the doctors were more mentally ill than the patients, so Jesse was not injected with those things at all, and was directly treated with electric therapy. But that kind of electric therapy was much gentler than what was happening in front of him. So Jesse became more energetic. So to thank you, I decided to make you into a work of art, just like my previous chief physicians. I hope you and them live longer, so that I can have more fun, Jesse said cruelly. For this kind of threat, Rorschach could only say that he was emotionally stable. He had seen no fewer sick lunatics than Jesse, most of whom were very cruel, and they had made more cruel threats than Jesse. But Rorschach was not afraid at all. On the contrary, he was a little excited. Don't forget that Rorschach is also a mental patient in essence. This is also why the special forces generally assume that the criminals Rorschach catches don't have to go to court. The court won't trust the testimony of a psychopathic policeman. The person he catches is likely to be directly declared innocent by the defense lawyer. So just let someone shoot the criminal to death, so that he doesn't have to go to court, and no one will have any trouble. Then come on. After saying that, he picked up a metal lid from the trash can again and used it as a shield to block his chest. Jesse grinned. A good pose. It reminds me of the Captain America toy I bought when I was a child. I've decided. I'm going to make you into a Captain America toy. I believe Steve will like my work. As soon as he finished speaking, Jesse rushed over. Oh, by the way, the mecha has no weapons. After all, the main body is just a small ball, and it's too much to have weapons. When Jesse ran out, he only had the matter face transfer device in his hand, and he used it. so now he can only be empty-handed. Bang! His fist was not too fast, and Rorschach easily caught it with his shield. But the huge force still made Rorschach slide back several meters, and his arm was still aching. We have a lot of time to play slowly. Chapter 1558 First update. Rorschach was wearing a mask, so Jesse couldn't see his expression, but it was not difficult to hear from his heavy breathing that Rorschach was not feeling well. But Rorschach never gave up. Nothing could make him retreat except death. My favorite superhero movie is Watchmen, which is really a classic. In fact, when I first watched this movie, I felt that it was so ugly, the pace was slow, and it was a bit stream of consciousness. It was very tiring to watch, but if you watch it patiently, it is really good, especially Rorschach. I always think that Rorschach is the protagonist of the whole movie, especially when he shouted "Do it" to Dr. Manhattan. It was really shocking. Facing Jesse, Rorschach raised his iron shield to meet him. If you say Jesse is smart, then he is definitely a smart man, otherwise he would not be able to do this. But his problem is not small. That is, he gets carried away easily. He thinks that he can bully people by wearing a mecha, so he starts to become complacent. Is Jesse's boxing and kicking skills good? Awesome. His real strength lies in his madness and strong hands-on ability. But as for his martial arts, he is an engineer, not a spy, so what kind of martial arts can he do? He only knows one set of turtle punches. Moreover, he, who calls himself an artist, actually hates close contact with people, not to mention the rough sports of hand-to-hand combat. Of course, this is also related to the fact that he himself can't fight. So in the past, when he dealt with others, he either used instruments, such as guns, scalpels or various homemade props, or used drugs, which he was very good at. He not only knew how to prepare poisons and anesthetics, but also how to innovate. Then there was his biggest problem. He was easily overwhelmed, or it can't be said that he was overwhelmed, it can only be said that he was following the wind and waves. Once he was smooth sailing, he couldn't control his restless heart and started to recklessly do all kinds of things. This was right in front of him. He knew that his martial arts were not very good, but now he felt that he had a great advantage, so he started to recklessly do all kinds of things. He just liked to see guys like Rorschach being defeated little by little in his hands, but he was powerless. This made him feel extremely satisfied. You're too slow. Faster. Faster, oh my. You hit me, that's great. But you didn't hit me with enough force. Hit me harder. Haven't you eaten yet? Jesse's face now is a typical villain's face. He hasn't escaped from danger yet, but he can't help but start to show off. Unfortunately, Rorschach was unmoved and still tried his best to give Jesse a hard blow when he got the chance. However, human consciousness can never overcome reality. No matter how strong Rorschach's willpower is, you can't turn his fist into steel, right? This is the real world, not a comic picture. Well, there are indeed some weird powers. The reality is that Rorschach has no superpowers except being stronger than ordinary people. So he is actually quite miserable now. Rorschach himself thinks that he has 3 broken ribs and his left leg seems to have some problems. He can't tell whether it is a fracture or a crack, and the same is true for his right hand. When people are fighting or are particularly excited, the adrenaline in their bodies will surge, which will temporarily suppress their senses. In simple terms, they can't feel pain. Many people are like this. They scream when they are fighting, but when the fight is over, they scream in pain, unless they are hit to the limit of their tolerance, such as someone kicking you in the crotch. You can only lie on the ground and scream in excitement. So when fighting, they are not that sensitive to many attacks. Now Rorschach is in this situation, and he is even more serious than others. When he was a child, he was abused by his mother, not just his mother, but also by her mother's guests, boyfriends, and even other people around him. It can be said that he has lived in pain since he was a child. He is used to pain and even embraced pain when he grew up. He can endure pain better than others. So the current situation is much more serious than he feels. But Rorschach does not intend to give up. Unfortunately, reality does not depend on personal will. Crack. Suddenly Rorschach felt a pain in his knee, and Rorschach immediately felt bad. However, the limit of the human body made him unable to control himself at all. He could only fall to the ground. One of his knees was broken by Jesse's kick, and the knee was kicked into a dislocated joint. If he could still stand, it would be a serious violation of human mechanics. As Jesse fell, Jesse immediately became manic. He felt that he had made a mistake. He did not want to destroy the opponent's limbs. After all, he had decided to turn the opponent into his toy. He wanted to pose Rorschach as Steve Rogers. He would put on Rogers' clothes, take the same shield, and then pose on the street according to the propaganda posters. This is very demanding on the limbs. If they are broken, it will take a lot of time to repair, which is very troublesome. After a long time, the body will rot. This will affect the artistic effect. Damn it. Damn it, Jesse suddenly felt bored. If he could not pose for a perfect artistic effect, he would rather not do it. At this time, he suddenly missed Snart. When Snart was there, he could use Snart's freezing gun to freeze the body. Now he has fallen out with Snart. He can no longer borrow it. But Jesse soon became happy, so there is no need to worry. As long as Snart is caught, he can go to the police station and steal the freezing gun. Of course, if Snart dies, the same operation will be done. As for Snart running away, that's even better. He can make Snart into a work of art. For example, burn Snart to death and make Heatwave into an ice sculpture. He will name these two statues Irony. Haha, it's wonderful. Ahem, Rorschach did not lie dead, but relied on his tenacious willpower to crawl up from the ground little by little. Jesse's fantasy was interrupted, and he looked at Rorschach now. Suddenly, he felt sick. One of Rorschach's legs became a reverse joint, and he could only stand on one leg. But the injured leg would be extremely painful as long as it touched the ground, causing him to twitch all over. This is no longer a pain that willpower can resist. Why do you want to stand up? I'm not interested in you anymore. If you lie down and play dead, I might let you go. However, Rorschach still picked up the deformed and twisted shield and made a fist gesture with both hands. I can fight you all day. Steve Rogers' famous quote for you, bastard. Jesse's face darkened, and he felt extremely disgusted with Rorschach's resistance. This guy had been beaten so badly that he had no power to fight back, but he was still pretending here. What the hell is this about spending all day? He could kill him in the next second. Chapter 1559, the first 4,000-word chapter. Happy Dragon Boat Festival to everyone. Jesse didn't feel Rorschach's strength at all, he just felt that he was being looked down upon. What do you mean by wasting a whole day? You are now a cripple. Thinking of this, Jesse rushed up to Rorschach mercilessly and beat him violently, even piercing his abdomen with his hand knife, almost pulling out his intestines. Seeing Rorschach fall to the ground covered in blood, Jesse finally felt comfortable. Looking at the dying Rorschach, Jesse sneered, raised his foot and kicked him hard until Rorschach could no longer move. Seeing Rorschach's breathing gradually disappear, Jesse didn't care about him anymore, but exhaled a heavy breath, then turned around to save him. He had wasted too much time. He had to leave here, otherwise when Kai and others caught up here, he couldn't guarantee that his surrender would be accepted. He had fooled them before. Then just as he was about to leave, he suddenly felt his foot tighten, looked down, and saw that one of Rorschach's hands was actually holding him tightly. Jesse thought Rorschach was still awake, but when he looked carefully, he found that Rorschach's eyes were closed and he couldn't even breathe. Even if he wasn't dead, he was unconscious. He just didn't know when his hand grabbed his foot and wouldn't let go. Jesse knew that Rorschach had grabbed his foot. When he beat Rorschach before, Rorschach tried to resist and kept blocking with his hands. Jesse didn't care at the time, but he never thought that Rorschach was already in a deep coma and was still holding him. Asshole, this made Jesse even angrier. This asshole not only chased him, but also kept mocking him, even at the cost of destroying his body so that he wouldn't let him turn him into a work of art, and even held him in the end. Who gave him the courage? I'm going to make you. What are you going to do to him? Just then, a voice interrupted Jesse. Jesse's face changed, and he looked up and found that there were 3 people standing on the wall not far from him. 2 women and 1 man. A black woman, wearing a leather jacket, one hand was made of metal, with an afro hairstyle, and a pair of sunglasses. The other woman was white and very beautiful. If you look closely, you will find that she is not standing on the wall, but floating on it. She can fly. The other man really scared Jesse, because he almost thought Batman was here. The man's outfit was very, very similar to Batman, but if you look closely, it was different from Batman. For example, the little spike on his head was a little different, a bit like an owl, and even the nose of the mask had a hook nose decoration. These 3 people were Jessica, Misty and Night Owl from the special department. It was Jessica who interrupted Jessie. Jessie, Jessica. These two names are really similar. Jessie was startled, but after seeing the three people clearly, he was actually relieved. He knew them. Snart once counted the superheroes in New York and listed some of the most important ones. So Jessie knew them. They're all police officers. It would be easy if they were police officers. Hi, Jessie raised his hand and greeted, then tried to tell a joke to ease the tense atmosphere. I said, "This is not my fault. I just found out that this, sir, was attacked. I was going to save him." Do you believe it? Do you think I believe it? Jessica's eyes became colder and colder. They were a step late. In fact, they came very quickly. When they saw Rorschach's locator moving, they found something wrong and rushed over immediately, but they didn't expect Rorschach to be defeated so quickly. However, when they saw the silver mecha on Jessie, they understood the reason for Rorschach's defeat. Rorschach is immortal. It is normal that he can't beat the mecha. It's all because Rorschach is too stubborn. Obviously, the special forces have so many technological equipment to use, but this guy insists on his old ways and is unwilling to arm himself. Night Owl, look at Rorschach, how is he? Jessica turned her head and said to Night Owl. Night Owl is different. He used to work alone and use high-tech equipment, but he couldn't do it alone. After entering the special department, he decisively replaced himself with a full set of high-tech equipment through the special department. It didn't cost any money. What's more, he had been coveting those high-tech equipment for a long time. Look, Night Owl's helmet is equipped with the latest artificial intelligence. Serious injury, need emergency treatment. Rorschach's condition is not good. Humph. Let this guy be stubborn, now it's alright. Although Jessica complained, her hands were not dissatisfied at all. The moment she finished speaking, Jessica rushed towards Jessie like a sharp arrow. Jessie didn't expect this woman to be so fast. He felt a flash in front of his eyes and flew into the air. Then he felt a sharp pain in his back, and he realized that he was pushed into the wall by Jessica. Fortunately, he had a mecha, otherwise this one hit would be enough for him to be GG. But before Jessie could make any move, Jessica's fist smashed into Jessie's face. Boom. 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 Each punch was heavier than the last. If the mecha's face hadn't been protected by an energy shield, the first punch would have sent Jessie away. Seeing that the mecha's energy bar dropped by one level without being hit by a punch, Jessie knew that he couldn't go on like this. So he turned on the mecha's flight system and rushed out with Jessica, who was holding the mecha. Jessie, who flew into the sky, was like a sky-high monkey, constantly making irregular movements in the air, trying to throw Jessica off, but Jessica still held the mecha tightly and was not moved at all. Finally, Jessie made up his mind, stomped his feet, and rushed to the ground head first. Seeing that he was about to fall to the ground, Jessica could only helplessly kick Jessie away and float in the air. Jessie was kicked away by Jessica, and he hit the ground like a ball several times before finally stopping. When Jessie saw Jessica being knocked down by him, his first reaction was joy. At the first moment of the fight, he knew that he could not afford to offend this woman, so he calmed down. The best way now was to run. But before he could start flying again, he felt his feet tighten. Jessie's heart tightened. This feeling was so familiar. He was so impressed by the scene of Rorschach grabbing him just now. He had a little stress reaction. However, this time it was not Rorschach, but a mechanical arm. It was Misty the Knight. Misty used to be a police officer and George's favorite disciple. Later, because of an explosion, one of her arms was blown off. Later, through Kai's relationship, Stark Group replaced her with a mechanical prosthesis. However, the initial mechanical prosthesis did not have practical significance, but more to ensure Misty's daily life. Because combat-type mechanical prostheses are not just a mechanical arm. After all, force is mutual. The mechanical arm does have extremely strong power, but other parts of the body cannot withstand strong pressure like the mechanical arm. So if you want Misty to be able to use the mechanical prosthesis perfectly, you must do full body enhancement. This kind of enhancement is not something you can do casually. After all, this kind of enhancement has only remained in the theoretical stage so far. No one has done it before Misty, and no one knows what consequences this kind of full body enhancement will bring. After all, this kind of enhancement is all round, and various strengthening operations need to be performed on the human body, such as bones. If you want to withstand the strong pressure brought by the mechanical arm battle, your bone strength must be strengthened. Otherwise it may cause bone shattering at any time during the battle. In addition, the core organs also need to be strengthened. This involves too many things, and it is not something that can be explained clearly in a few words. And this is just the preliminary preparation, and there will be self-rejection reactions and other things in the future. It's too dangerous. After a period of consideration, Misty finally chose to undergo surgery because she wanted to help more people. This kind of surgery takes a long time. In fact, Misty's surgery has not been completed yet. This is a long process that requires multiple surgeries to be completed. But for now, Misty is able to come out and fight. Jessie, who was originally flying in the sky, was caught tightly by Misty on the ground and couldn't fly up to the sky. Under normal circumstances, this situation would of course not happen. The power of the mecha is not so strong that two people can't carry it. It's that Misty's weight is much heavier than that of a normal person. Misty's strengthening surgery is not without cost. In addition to the pain of the surgery, she needs to endure some side effects. For example, after her body bones are strengthened, their toughness increases significantly, but the side effect is that her bones weigh 2 to 3 times that of a normal person. In addition, in order to adjust her muscle strength, a large number of artificial muscles are implanted in her body muscles. The raw material of this muscle is the parasite brought back by Kai from Japan. This species from the distant deep space of the universe has extremely high ductility and toughness. Even after strengthening, it has the same hardness as metal and can be used directly as a weapon. What's more, this biological material has a very high degree of fit with a human body, so there is no need to worry about rejection. Now 30% of Misty's muscle tissue has been replaced with this artificial muscle. According to the research of Stark Group, if Misty continues the surgery and replaces all the muscles in her body, then Misty will become a Superman. Some crazy researchers even plan to install some weapons on Misty. For example, remove the eyeballs and replace them with laser emitters that can emit lasers. The result was naturally stopped. Nonsense, although it is very good to remove the eyeballs and install laser emitters. But where to put the energy? Dig a hole in Misty's chest and install a reactor? Then do you have to pull a wire to connect it? Would that transform Misty into Terminator? In short, Misty can't officially weigh herself in this life. Standing on it, that small electronic scale exploded directly. Jessie was still trying to fly upwards, and Misty naturally couldn't let him increase the horsepower. If he really took her to the sky, she would be at a loss, and Stark Group didn't install a flight system on her. So Misty gritted her teeth, used all her strength, and smashed Jessie into the ground. Boom. Before Jessie could react, Misty used it again and threw him to the other side. Boom. Then Jessie was completely turned into a broken bag, and Misty grabbed her and smashed her like crazy. Referred to Hulk smashing Loki. Jessie lost her temper after being smashed. But Misty was not really that relaxed. After all, only 30% of her body's muscle tissue had been replaced, which was not enough to support her to play like this. She had already felt that some parts of her body had been strained. The human body is very delicate. It doesn't mean that if you modify your arm, you can conquer the world with your arm alone. Any movement of the human body requires the participation of more than 2 groups of muscles in the body. The more complex the movement, the more muscle groups need to be involved. So her original muscles are simply not enough to withstand the current intensity. So after a few smashes, Misty immediately threw Jessie out. On the other side, Night Owl had already started to give first aid to Rorschach. He had a lot of emergency equipment on him. Although he couldn't bring Rorschach back to life, he could ensure that the situation would not get worse. After knowing that Rorschach was not in danger for the time being, Jessica didn't care anymore. She was not a doctor. Could she add blood to Rorschach by standing by? So of course it is more important to deal with the criminals. Just then, Misty threw Jessie over. Jessica seized the opportunity and kicked Jessie in the crotch. Then Jessie flew out like a cooked crayfish, almost folded in half. Misty saw Jessie flying back again, and she bit the bullet and punched Jessie's stomach hard. With a bang. Jessie was finally not kicked back like a ball, but smashed to the ground. It's not that Misty didn't want to interact with Jessica. It's just that her body couldn't bear it. She didn't expect this to happen. After all, this was her first time to do such intense exercise during a mission. Jessica stared at Misty and asked her what she was doing. She had already made the moves, just waiting for the ball to fly back. In the end, she waited in vain. Misty grinned and made an apologetic expression. Of course, she couldn't tell the truth. She was still on a mission. Was she afraid that the enemy wouldn't hear her weakness if she told it? Fortunately, Jessica did not investigate further. At this time, Saji also rushed over with his big gun and a large army. Saji and his men were not as high as Jessica and her men, so they could only sit in the car honestly. Then they needed to move along the road. Although the speed was not slow, it also depended on who they were competing with. At this moment, the battle was almost over. At least Jessie had no way to escape. Jessica could fly. However, when Jessie saw so many policemen, he was not desperate, but angry with countless hopes. What he wanted to see most now was the police. As I said before, he was not afraid of being caught. After all, he was a lunatic, a professionally identified mental patient, who could not bear legal responsibility at all. At most, he would be locked up in a mental hospital. The security of a mental hospital and a prison are definitely two levels. Once the storm is over, he can continue to be free and happy. There is no need to worry about any consequences. Rather than being beaten to death by these two women who don't look like women, he would rather go to a mental hospital for a vacation. So without any hesitation, when he saw the large group coming, Jessie immediately knelt on the ground and raised his hands. I surrender. The reason why he didn't surrender just now was that he thought he had a chance to escape, and secondly, there were only 2 or 3 people. If they joined forces to kill him, he really couldn't argue. After all, they only needed to say to the prosecutor, the prisoner resisted arrest violently, and he had no choice but to shoot him, so he didn't dare to surrender at all. Now it's different. With such a large group of people, he surrendered. Even if someone really wanted to kill him, he could only hold his nose and bear it. Chapter 1562nd Update. Jessie saw so many fully armed police officers, but his face was not depressed or discouraged, but full of smiles. The police officers quickly surrounded him, but they did not dare to approach. In fact, for such criminals who are still armed and have not lost their resistance, it is better to keep a distance, in case they are caught and taken hostage. Let's not talk about what happened to the criminals in the end. The unlucky guy who was caught is also finished. Although he will not be fired under the intervention of the police union, the police union in the United States is quite awesome. You can see that many police officers accidentally injured or other weird operations, such as the operation of the suicidal miner being shot dead by the police. But in the end, the police involved were fine. This is all the power of these unions. Oh, by the way, the police union is not a unified organization. The police stations in various urban areas have their own unions, but such police who are held hostage by criminals will never get the trust of their colleagues in the future, which is equivalent to social death in the police world. Even if they do not leave the police world, they basically bid farewell to the front line. So whether it was to prevent himself from being killed or for his own personal safety, when Jessie did not disarm, the special police officers still pointed their guns at him and surrounded him. Don't be so nervous, I surrender. Really. I won't hurt you. Jessie was very relaxed. Of course he was relaxed. If the police had any extreme actions, he could sue them and make them unable to take care of themselves. Living in California, he knew his advantages too well. It can be said that as long as there is a way, the police will become a vulnerable group most of the time. Because the police are violent institutions, in the eyes of liberals, such institutions are inherently evil and they are enemies of freedom. So if you sue the police, then congratulations, you will get a lot of help. You can even take the opportunity to make a lot of money. Many lawyers like to take such cases. They may not even charge the client's money, they will share from the client's compensation. Coincidentally, Jessie definitely has no shortage of such ways. He himself doesn't know many lawyers or big shots. But don't forget his identity, a madman, and a famous madman. There really doesn't need to be too many media outlets that want to interview him. As long as you convey what you want to say through the media, there will be people who will fight for him. So he is really not afraid. The more police the better. Seeing those nervous policemen, Jessie was not only not afraid but also interested, because it made him feel very powerful. These people were afraid of him. As if he was the one who controlled everything. This made him feel very good. However, the leading policeman ignored him and walked to Rorschach. At this time, professionals were already in place and were treating Rorschach. That's right. The special forces are equipped with medical soldiers. Logically speaking, the police force does not need to be equipped with any medical personnel. You are in the city, why do you need a medical unit? Can't you just send it to the hospital? Waste of police force. You must know that in the United States, anything related to the word medical is expensive. Because anything related to the word medical requires sufficient professional ability. However, in the United States, where commercialization is extremely developed, everything is related to money. For example, it takes at least 11 years to train a doctor in the United States. First, it takes 4 years for an ordinary undergraduate degree, then 4 years for internship, and then medical students need to participate in standardized residency training. The time depends on the department. The residency training time varies for different disciplines. The internal medicine system is generally 3 to 4 years, and the surgical system is 5 to 7 years. For example, the neurosurgery we are familiar with requires 7 years of residency training in the United States. During this period, the first 4 years are just spending money, and it is very expensive. Generally speaking, it is about $20,000 to $60,000. Look at the school, the more famous, the more expensive. These are all costs. After that, the return on internships and regular training is not very high, and the income will not rise sharply until you become a formal doctor. Therefore, the cost of a qualified doctor is very high. Even any profession related to the word medicine requires a lot of investment in the early stage, so things related to medical care in the United States are so expensive. How can the police department be willing to spend so much money to equip the police force with a medical unit? The cost is too high. But the special department is different. It is rich and powerful, and there are powerful people above to support it. This is also the only police force in the United States equipped with a medical unit. There is no way. It is so arrogant. How is it? Sage asked the medical police. Not bad. He won't die. The medical police used to be a military doctor, and Sage recruited him directly from the army through connections. Apart from other things, he knows everything about first aid. As for why he didn't hire a better one, nonsense. With that kind of medical skills, who the hell would be a policeman? Wouldn't it be nice to work in a private hospital? However, the injury is very serious. If he is treated in the hospital, you won't be able to see him this year. It will take at least 1 to 2 years to recover. Although he is not a famous doctor, his professional skills are still in place, and the key is that he is experienced. So he quickly estimated the recovery period. Okay, send him directly to Stark Tower. Sage understood what the doctor meant. The doctor was reminding him that if he wanted Rorschach to return to the team as soon as possible, he would need to use special methods. What special method? Naturally, it is the life cradle of Stark Group. Others cannot enjoy the life cradle of Stark Tower, but the special forces do not need to consider this issue. In fact, if the life cradle system wants to be perfected, it requires a lot of data and experiments, which requires the accumulation of treatment times. And what limits the number of treatments is the high cost of each use of the life cradle medical cabin. So it can't be promoted on a large scale. Sending people over by the special forces can be regarded as killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It was not until Rorschach was put into the car by the doctor that Saji had time to look at Jesse. Did you seriously injure Rorschach? Saji asked Jesse with a murderous look on his face. Jesse was still not panicking. He said calmly, no, I was just passing by innocently and was going to save people. But your people treated me as a prisoner. He was obviously talking nonsense. Just playing. Are you very proud? Saji was even more murderous. But Jesse was still not panicking. With so many people, what does he want to do? What can he do? A little bit. Saji laughed angrily. It was the first time he met such a cool suspect. You surrender? Yes. I surrender. He acted more like a Frenchman, very proud. This is the first time I see a surrendered person still armed. I think you want to resist the law violently. You even want to hold the police hostage and run away. Saji instinctively didn't want to accept his surrender. Jesse was a little anxious now. He was so busy enjoying himself that he forgot about it. Nonsense. I just didn't have time to take it off. Jesse didn't dare to say that this thing was clothes, no matter how arrogant he was. That would be nonsense. So he took off the mecha quickly. The mecha quickly turned into a ball. Put it down. Put it down slowly. Then the police got excited and shouted with their guns raised. Jesse did it immediately. After all, every year many people are shot dead directly because they don't do what the police say. Afterwards, the police are fine. Who told you not to do what the police say? You deserve to be beaten to death. Although Jesse didn't have much experience, he still read a lot of news. He slowly put the mecha on the ground, and then according to the police's order, He slowly pushed it towards the police. Soon someone put it away. "Do you have any weapons on you?" Saji shouted. Jesse saw that this guy just didn't want to surrender himself, probably because of the guy who was beaten half to death by him. But the more this happened, the more Jesse couldn't resist. He could only take out all the small props he had on him. He was about to surrender, so he didn't want to do anything tricky. After all, the two women who had just beaten him half to death were still there. Chapter 1561. First update, please give me your monthly vote. Facing a group of policemen who were watching him closely, even if Jesse wanted to show off, he had to consider the cost. Although the author always leaned towards the police when writing books, that was because the protagonist was a policeman, and of course the protagonist could only be on the bright and upright side. But in fact, there are really a lot of bad things about American police, such as violent law enforcement, which is really countless. Many people always say how good the domestic police are, but you have never experienced American police. One of the author's classmates, who had some assets at home, also followed a trend and went abroad to gild himself. As a result, he was stopped by the police when he was driving. They were going to a party, and the driver was his black classmate. As a result, he was stopped while driving, without any reason. He just saw a group of ethnic minorities in the car. There were 4 people in the car at the time, 3 Asians, the author's classmate and 2 girls, a Korean girl and a Chinese girl, and the driver was a black man. This kind of unreasonable car stop really scared several Asians. After all, the whole world knows that Asians are famous for being honest, and they are all international students, so they have never encountered such a situation. The black people are very skilled. As a result, after getting off the car, the police started to touch the 2 girls and said dirty things. The author's classmate went out from China and didn't adjust to it. He thought he was still in China, so he said a few words and was knocked down. Fortunately, it was a stun gun. After that, he was taken to the police station and locked up for a night. After the classmate came out, he was still unconvinced. As a result, the black friend told him that it was fortunate that he was Asian. If he had argued with the police, he might have been emptied of the magazine. After that, after returning to China, this classmate would never want to go to the United States again. According to him, why go out? Be a third-class citizen? It's more comfortable in China. You know, this guy said he wanted a green card before. Let's get back to the point. Anyone who has dealt with the police in the United States knows that when the police point a gun at you, you'd better do whatever the police say, don't do anything unnecessary, and don't fight, because he may really shoot. Jesse cooperated very well. After all, in his opinion, even if he was arrested, it would be okay. If he really wanted to show off and tease the police at the last minute, he would be playing with his own life. Before was before, now is now, he knows everything. So he cooperated and took out the things on his body. Don't say it, this kid doesn't know how to hide. There are a lot of small props on his body, such as knives, dolls, screaming chickens and other messy things. After the things were carefully put away by the police. After he was searched, he felt relieved. Now he can show off. He smiled and looked at Saji. Officer, don't be so timid, I surrender sincerely. Saji nodded, then looked at the police who searched him. The police nodded. Saji laughed. Don't forget who Saji is with. This guy Kai's really ruthless sometimes. Especially in a foreign country, in China, he certainly needs to pay attention to discipline. After all, the Chinese people will suffer in the end if he breaks the discipline, but this is the United States. He doesn't need to care about those. So Kai has always been famous for his dirty hands. They are all brothers who eat from the same pot, so what kind of great and glorious role can Saji play? If that were the case, he wouldn't be able to get along with Kai. So with Sage's nod, the policemen who had surrounded Jesse dispersed all at once. Jesse was left kneeling on the ground, disheveled in the wind. He was not an idiot, on the contrary, he was very smart. Following the actions of the policemen, he immediately understood what was going on. These policemen wanted to get him. He had thought about this possibility. But seeing so many people, Jesse himself didn't believe that the other party would dare to do that. If anyone leaked this, Sage would turn from a policeman into a murderer. In a society ruled by law, killing a murderer is also illegal. That's why he was fearless. But now it seems that things are a little bad. But Sage didn't care about him and directly charged his big gun. This is also Chitauri technology, of course, after Stark's magic modification. No one knows what it was originally called, and now Stark Group has named it BFG 9000. Its original name is Bioforce Gun. The energy ball it produces can burn any organic matter. But it just doesn't have much destructive power on inorganic matter. The Stark Group didn't know what the principle was, so they only modified one experimental gun, and the others were sealed in the Stark Group for research. It is perfect to use it to destroy the body. After one shot, even the enemy's DNA cannot be found. According to the traditional way of police investigation, there is no blood and no body, then everything is safe and sound. So Sage planned to do it. Hey. Wait. I surrender. You can't do this. Jesse was anxious. Now he had nothing on him. If he ran away, it would be a clear opportunity for the police. If he didn't run away, the big gun was charging. So he would die whether he ran or not. You are a policeman. You can't break the law now, Ingley. I am just a crazy murderer. You should hand me over to the law for trial. You still have a bright future. You can't destroy everything for such a person. With so many people watching, you can't run away. Jesse probably spoke like this for the first time in his life. Persuading people to be good. He has done a lot of things to persuade people to die. Persuading people to be good, this is the first time. Of course, he would never miss such an experience. Sage did not answer him, but just smiled at Jesse. Does what Jesse said make sense? Of course it does. But don't forget who is around you. The Special Division. Just like the name of the Special Division, the Special Division style of doing things is unique in the entire New York Police Department. They handle special matters and are directly responsible to the top of the police department. They do not need to accept public supervision. In fact, in many cases, they only need to be responsible to Kai. Kai is also a senior member of the police department, but he rarely goes to the headquarters to work, and he does not participate in the power struggle of the police department. You must know that the New York Police Department has more than 36,000 official police officers. If you count other civilians, the number exceeds 67,000. You must know that there are 16,000 civilians alone. You can imagine how much power is involved. But Kai is very detached. Although he is the deputy director, Kai basically does not participate in the daily work of the police department. This is definitely good news for other senior officials. After all, with his prestige and support, if he really wants to fight for power, the police commissioner will have to stand aside. The head of the New York Police is the police commissioner, a civilian position, directly appointed by the mayor, and is already considered a politician. But Kai didn't do that. Others naturally have to be grateful to him. In return, the Special Division is regarded as Kai's forbidden fruit and is directly led by him. Others are not allowed to interfere. In this case, the Special Division has basically become an independent kingdom. The Special Division has a very high degree of freedom in handling cases. It is not an exaggeration to say that it can cover the sky with one hand. What's the big deal about killing a prisoner? As long as it does not violate Kai's bottom line, Kai can suppress it, not to mention that everyone at the scene is from the Special Division. Although Rorschach's style is not liked by many members of the Special Division, everyone is still one of their own. Jesse, the bastard, beat Rorschach like that. He really thought that the Special Division had no temper. You have to know that many of them were directly recruited from the military. They have a strong habit of sticking together. In addition to Rorschach's matter, they would never betray Sage for Jesse. So Sage had no intention of letting him go from the beginning. Go to hell, son of the beach, a ball of green energy shot out directly. Jesse then remembered to run, but it was too late. Following the green light mountain, only a piece of clothing emitting hot air appeared on the ground. As for Jesse, strictly speaking, he was missing. After all, there was no blood or body at the scene. Clean and environmentally friendly. Chapter 1562 Second Update. Jesse's death was not painful at all. Compared with the people he killed, his end was too lucky. But Sage is not a paranoid person like Rorschach, who must give the criminals corresponding punishment. If Jesse falls into Rorschach's hands, his death must be very cruel. For Sage, death is the best punishment. I don't know what Rorschach will think when he wakes up, but he should accept it. With the end of Jesse, we have to turn our perspective to the other side. They are catching up. Mark saw Liz and Keith chasing him from behind, and immediately shouted to Snart. Snart turned around and saw Liz and Keith. Ha ha ha. Bastards. I'm going to kick your asses hard, Keith said the lines from the old Western movie while shooting with a bang-bang gun. Liz was a little helpless. Keith, this is not what a girl should say. Cool. Don't you think it has a Western feel? Come on, we are flying in the sky, how can it have a Western feel? Haha. Aha. Who cares? I think it does, Keith shouted willfully. Forget it, whatever you think, it's up to you. But why don't you shoot more accurately? Ha ha ha. It's because I can't shoot accurately that I think it's a Western. You see, in Westerns, when you shoot on horseback, you always miss people. Liz thought for a while. Which Western did you watch? Is the protagonist's shooting skill so bad? The Ridiculous Six. What? Liz had heard of the Magnificent Seven. It was a real old Western, a remake of Kurosawa's Seven Samurai by the famous director John Sturges, and it was very famous. It was a 1960 movie, very old, but also very famous. Many people who like Westerns regard this movie as a classic, and there has been news of Hollywood remaking this movie. I heard that this movie is going to be remade recently, and the cast is very strong. But Liz has never heard of The Ridiculous Six. You haven't seen it? It's very funny. Keith actually talked to Liz seriously about movies. It turns out that this thing is a recent remake of a Western comedy movie. Just looking at the name, you can tell that it is a spoof of the Magnificent Seven. Stop it, Keith, we are chasing the scoundrels. Liz finally woke up from Keith's crooked building. Keith is like this. The more tense the moment, the more difficult it is for her to concentrate. It's not accurate to say that. To be precise, this is a way for Keith to vent stress. The more critical the moment, the more she needs other things to share the pressure. So in essence, she is not inattentive, but it is very easy to divert other people's attention. Just like just now, Liz was originally nervous about chasing two people from the scoundrels, but she was inexplicably diverted. Of course, this is not without benefits. At least a feeling of depression in Liz's heart has improved a lot. Her mother was harassed and her uncle Mason was killed. Liz has been feeling bad. Otherwise she wouldn't have rushed out without caring about anything. She wasn't so active before. Generally speaking, she was the calmer one and wouldn't rush to the front. Teresa and Keith were. Now that Keith had done this, she suddenly felt much better. Yes, yes, yes. We've been chasing. Suddenly, a flash of lightning flashed by them, and then Snart, who was originally flying in the air, was knocked to the ground. What was that just now? Keith asked in surprise. Liz didn't react either. I don't know. But it looks like Director Wayne. Liz has always been a little afraid of Kai. Although she often goes to Kai's house, she always calls Kai Director Wayne, and only calls him uncle a few times. I don't know if it's because of Adrian's matter. Anyway, Kai has no prejudice against her. Keith thought it was like that. After all, among the people she knew, only Kai could use lightning. But soon their guesses failed. Because Kai rushed over. He was holding Emma and little Bernard, who just flew over. Mark suddenly saw Snart being shot down. He was stunned for a moment, hesitated for a while, then gritted his teeth and rushed down. It's not that Mark is very loyal. As I said before, if he really wanted to be loyal, he would not go alone with his brother. What really drove him to do this was his hatred for the Flash. His brother Clyde Mayton was killed by the Flash, and Mark always wanted to avenge his brother, so he always wanted to kill the Flash. Unfortunately, he couldn't beat the Flash at all, and he was beaten badly several times. Later, in order to defeat the Flash, he joined the Rogues. As a result, after joining the Rogues, although he put the Flash in crisis several times, he still failed. But it was also because of this that Mark felt that the Rogues were at least not useless. After all, they almost made the Flash hate him several times before, but they were unlucky and the Flash escaped. In any case, it was much better than going alone. He really didn't have the confidence to do it alone. Now the Rogues are falling apart, Jesse and the Peak Man have rebelled, and Heatwave has probably been captured, and he has lost a hand. Only he and Snart are left. If Snart is gone, the Rogues are completely finished. To be honest, Mark still recognizes Snart's ability. The previous plans were made by Snart, and the Rogues were also formed by Snart. I believe that as long as Snart escapes, it will not be difficult to find someone to reorganize the Rogues. But without Snart, what do you want Mark to do? He knows himself. His brain is not as smart as Snart, and his mouth is not as eloquent as Snart. Let him find someone to form a group to cause trouble for the Flash. He really doesn't have the confidence. So even for revenge, Snart can't die. What's more, If Snart is gone, he is alone and has no confidence that he can run away. Ground. Snart got up from the ground, covering his arm, and looked at the woman in front of him with a sinister face. At first he thought he had met a new superhero. After all, he had never seen the woman's appearance before, not even in the information. Until he saw the woman's appearance clearly. Although Teresa liked to draw herself in strange shapes, Snart still recognized that the girl was one of the girls who had been causing trouble for them before. She just changed her outfit, which was not enough for Snart to recognize her. After all, this is not the DC universe. Clark only needs to wear glasses to make people ignore him. This is probably the most perfunctory cross-dressing in the history of superheroes. How can someone not be recognized by wearing glasses? Brother, when Superman became Clark, he didn't even change his hairstyle. What happened? This woman, how did she become like this? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1563 First Update. Teresa, Liz and Keith quickly arrived at the place where Snart and the others landed. This is a farm on Long Island. Don't think that New York is all high-rise buildings. Long Island is the most natural area in New York. There are many famous vineyards and farms here. Many New Yorkers are happy to come to these farms to play on weekends. Now it's a weekday, so there are not many people near the farm. There is no need to worry about accidental injuries. This is also a blessing in disguise. When they saw that the little sisters of the past had changed so much, both Liz and Keith were stunned. Hearing the sisters' surprised voices, Teresa's vanity was greatly satisfied. She spread her legs, threw the red cape behind her, raised the hammer in her hand, and showed a big smile. How about it? Is it handsome? Keith didn't have so many ideas. She was always very direct. So handsome. So handsome. How did you do it? Keith jumped around Teresa like a rabbit who found a carrot, laughing exaggeratedly and touching Teresa everywhere. Ouch! Stop touching me, it's itchy. Teresa was also a crowd pleaser. When she met Keith, she was even more arrogant. She posed in various ways to let people take pictures quickly, while pushing Keith's dirty hands away. Why are you, a big shot, chasing us? It was Jesse who killed people, and we just stole some things. Snart saw the two little girls there as if they were on a spring outing, and he had long wanted to run away. Unfortunately, Kai blocked their way with a child in his arms. Snart was very clear-headed. The two of them were definitely not Kai's opponents, so he didn't plan to force his way in. He had seen it before. Kai was not interested in them. Otherwise, they would not be able to escape from the bank. From beginning to end, Kai did not take action, and was watching the show. That's right. To be honest, little thieves like you don't do much harm to society. It's true that the rogues don't like to kill people most of the time. They only rob. It's much better than those guys who always want to overthrow the world or change the world. At least they have no interest in the world. In fact, Kai always thinks that the world is good. Don't touch it, it may not get better, but it will probably not get worse. But if you don't believe in evil and insist on touching it, the world may really be destroyed for you to see. Don't teach too many lessons like this. Anyway, if it were normal times, Kai would not personally hunt them down. After all, there are so many active superheroes in New York, it's impossible for everyone to have nothing to do and bully those little hooligans, right? Gangs and the like are reserved for those fledgling superheroes to level up, such as Spider-Man, Green Goblin and Web, etc. Mature superheroes have all targeted those superpower criminals. These guys are more destructive, and at the same time they have destroyed the social atmosphere, making ordinary people feel disgusted and afraid of superpowers, which is not a good sign. If the conflict between these two groups is provoked, it may cause great turmoil at any time. So these guys must not be tolerated. You know, superpowers can live well no matter what they do. For example, joining the government, not to mention the federal government, even state and city governments are very happy to accept these superpowers to strengthen their own forces. For example, the New York Police Department has been recruiting various talents to join. The treatment is also very good. There are not many people with superpowers in the United States, so the government will never think that there are too many. According to the government's thinking, they all want to join the government. The small number of people with superpowers will not have any impact on the employment of ordinary people. This not only reduces uncertainties, but also enhances their own strength. The government thinks it is a good deal no matter how it is calculated. But in this case, those who still run out to commit crimes are basically scum. I don't feel sorry for killing them. After all, even if you hate the government, you can hide your identity and live your own life among the people. For this kind of superpower people, the government's policy is to collect information and then ignore it. The government cannot spend so much money to monitor them specifically, it's too wasteful. Of course, there will still be telephone monitoring or video surveillance. After all, the US government treats ordinary people like this. Everyone is equal, and no one should say anything about anyone. From this perspective, the United States has indeed taken equal rights to the forefront. In short, it's not that Kai is arrogant, but that he should do what he should do in that position. Well, it's just arrogance. People. It's inevitable. Kai is the same, he is not a real saint. Then why? Snart asked. He didn't hold any unreliable hopes, after all, they were bad guys anyway. Kai would not specifically hunt them down, but they were right in front of Kai, and he didn't believe that Kai would really let them go. He had hoped before, but what about now? Others had caught up with him. So, he was just curious. Why would he get involved in such a thing? If it weren't for him, they might really be able to get away with it. No, Jesse is also a problem. Have you ever raised a child? Kai asked. Snart was stunned. What the hell was that? Why would he raise a child? Kai didn't expect him to answer, but sighed deeply. Hey, daughters are the dead of their parents. Snart looked at the noisy children with a weird look on his face, and then looked at Kai. He said in disbelief, just for these children? Mark was stunned on the side. What the hell are these two idiots talking about? What else? You killed their friends. They insisted on seeking revenge on you. I originally said that I would avenge them, but they refused and insisted on doing it themselves. What can I do? I can only follow them to prevent them from getting hurt. Fuck. We didn't kill their friends, Snart yelled. Even if we did, it was Jesse who did it. What does it have to do with us? Well, he didn't know that Mason was friends with these little girls. You know, normal parents would never let their beautiful little girls be friends with a slovenly fat otaku. After all, that guy looks like a pedophile. Well, this is discrimination. But in the United States, which emphasizes equality, is there less discrimination? It's not surprising at all. The Mason you killed is my uncle. He is our friend. This was Liz's voice suddenly interrupted. Snart was silent. Who the hell knew that the fat guy actually had such a strong backer? Kai shrugged, indicating that he had no choice. Mark couldn't help it. You mean, only they can hurt me? But I can't hurt them. Kai didn't say anything. Just looked at Mark sincerely. Mark immediately felt the disparity of the world. This is not fair. Mark let out the most profound cry in his life. Chapter 1564 Second Update. Kai looked at him in surprise. He didn't expect the robber to be so naive now. Snart said that he was emotionally stable because he knew from childhood that the world was unfair. Otherwise, why did he have a bastard father, but other children didn't? So whether it was fair or not, he didn't care much? If he really cared, he wouldn't rob a bank. Well, not really. Those banks are making dirty money, so robbing them doesn't seem to be a problem. It's fair. Huh? Snart knew he was going to fail, but deep down he still wanted to struggle. Can't I hurt them? Yes. I will be very angry if I hurt them. You don't want to see me when I'm angry, Kai nodded and said honestly. There was no need to lie. After all, he came here to support them. Don't you think this is too much spoiling for the children? After all, children can only grow up through fighting and quarreling. After all, you can't follow them all the time. Today, they can do whatever they want under your protection, but what if one day you are not with them? You know, they can't deal with every enemy. Snart was talking about raising children very seriously. He didn't know shit about raising children, he just watched it on TV. Now, the spaceship was grateful for the TV he had watched when he was bored, and he was also glad that he was so bored. Otherwise, he would have nothing to say. Well, you make sense, Kai really thought so. He always wanted to prevent them from getting hurt, but he never thought about whether he should really train them. After all, he couldn't bear to do it subconsciously. After all, he had never raised a child and had no experience. They were all parents for the first time, So it was inevitable that they were a little out of tune. Then what do you say? Kai asked. They should rely on their own strength to take revenge. Instead of relying on your strength? That's right, that's right. We have to rely on our own strength. At this time, Teresa and Keith's voices appeared inopportunely. Kai looked up and found that the two were arm in arm, shouting. No, Keith, forget it. How can you, Teresa, have the confidence to say such a thing? You can be so arrogant. Isn't it because I gave you Mjolnir? Now you are talking tough. Of course, according to Kai's understanding of Teresa, even if there is no Mjolnir, this guy will still say so. Liz behind the two of them was a little hesitant to speak. After all, in her opinion, revenge is more important. As for how to take revenge, she doesn't really care. But thinking that Mason is also their good friend, Liz didn't say anything. And what the two said is not wrong. If they take revenge by themselves, it will be more meaningful. Kai is still hesitating. Snart and Mark also stared at him closely, and Snart didn't say anything. Although Mark is not smart, he is not stupid. If he really follows what Kai said, he might as well surrender and be shot. At least he won't be humiliated. After all, it's nothing to just take a beating and not fight back. If Kai is really blind and agrees with Snart's idea, they will make a fortune. At that time, they will not kill these girls, but just seriously injure them, and then run away. Never come to New York again. Just when the two were getting more and more nervous, just like waiting for a death notice, Kai's phone rang. This scared the two of them, and it felt like when you were watching The Ring and the phone suddenly rang, you almost peed yourself. Hello. Oh, I see. Is Rorschach okay? As long as he's not dead, I'll tell Pepper and she'll make arrangements. Well, that's it. What? Dead? Just die? It's okay. No one will bother you for this scumbag. Okay, that's it. Kai hung up the phone. Good news, Snart and Mark didn't say anything. Even if they didn't know anything, they knew that this was not for them. What's wrong? Teresa asked anxiously. Jesse is dead, Kai said. Case and Teresa were stunned, then looked at each other, and Case asked, Who is Case? Your friend, Bah. My friend is dead. How can it be good news? And have you studied the information seriously? Jesse from the Rogue Gang. The pervert who killed Mason. Kai was speechless. Even so, he let Kai let them go out to do justice? Oh. You mean the trickster. You should have said it earlier. You mean Jesse, I just heard it as Jessica. I was saying how could Jessica's death be good news? You didn't make it clear. Teresa looked scared, and then she complained about Kai crazily. Kai curled his lips, saying that he couldn't keep this girl anymore. It wasn't like this before. Snart and Mark were a little touched when they heard that Jesse was dead. After all, they were so familiar with each other. Although they wanted to kill Jesse themselves, they felt it was a pity to hear about Jesse's death suddenly. Can I ask, is Heatwave dead? Snart suddenly asked. Oh, I forgot to ask, Kai said a little embarrassedly. Snart pursed his lips, which was considered a response to Kai. Kai said immediately, Jesse's death is good news for you. At least I don't have so much psychological burden when I let you go. Snart immediately threw aside the little sadness in his heart. You agreed? Yes, you are theirs. Kai said to the girls, if you are incompetent and let them run away, you can't blame me. Teresa immediately said carelessly, no problem. Just wait and see. Keith also said, yes. Just watch us. The future is our era. You are old and nagging all the time, Tisk. This unfortunate child. He really has never been beaten. Thinking of this, Kai is more inclined to think that they will be beaten up, which is also considered an education. Otherwise, it is too lawless. Okay. Whatever you say, just don't cry to me later, he said and walked to the side with the two children. Bernard and Emma here are still thinking about breaking free to help their sisters, but Kai refused very firmly this time. No. If you help them, won't they win right away? That would be so boring. Kai said this to the two little sisters. When Bernard heard it, she thought he was talking about her, and immediately felt very powerful. She didn't have any chivalrous mood, and she didn't have any specific concept of revenge, so she really believed it. Emma also thought Kai was talking about her. After all, no one counted on little Bernard, and to be honest, Emma's ability always had an unexpected effect. It was very useful. So Emma nodded, indicating that she didn't need to take action in such a small situation. She didn't think about it. It's not like they haven't encountered the Rogue Gang before, and they couldn't do anything to them. right? Chapter 1565 First update. In short, everyone was very happy. Kai felt that he could educate his children. Snart and Mark felt that they had a chance to run away. Teresa and Keith felt that they could show their talents. Everyone had a bright future. However, just after Kai walked away, the scene suddenly became quiet. The 5 people looked at each other and did not move. It lasted for almost a minute. Emma was a little confused. She was very smart, but after all, she was a child and still did not understand the adult world. Dad Wayne, what are they doing? Kai was also wondering. What are these people doing? I don't know, maybe they are looking for each other's flaws. Kai himself did not believe this. When he was practicing martial arts in the past, he wanted to practice martial arts because he was influenced by martial arts movies. He was obsessed with some things, such as 2 heroes fighting and staring at each other for a long time. Someone asked what these 2 were doing. The passers-by next to him said that this was after the flaws. Doesn't it look very cool? In fact, there is no such thing in reality. A duel is not a routine on the field. The routines and moves you practice in your daily life are unlikely to be used in a duel. Practicing martial arts, practicing routines and moves, refers to a carefully planned way to deal with a certain situation. People who use this method are often proficient in it and have formed a conditioned reflex. Logically, they tend to use this method to deal with complex situations. Psychologically, they often have a dependence on this method, which has a deep impact on people. Using a certain specific and unchanging way to deal with events, forming a way for dealing with certain situations, is called a routine. In fact, to put it bluntly, in a battle, it still depends on personal reaction. Sometimes when you see 2 people fighting, it seems that they are fighting randomly, but in fact there is a routine behind it. But in the final analysis, a fight between 2 people is not about whether your routine is superb, but about personal ability. You 2 stand still, how can you see any flaws? But Kai couldn't figure out what these people were doing for a while. In fact, the 5 people over there were also confused. They didn't know what to do for a moment. Snart and Mark wanted to turn around and run, but they were afraid that Kai would not be happy. They had agreed to let them accept their fate, but to put it bluntly, it was just to train a few little girls. If they ran away directly, they were afraid that Kai would be unhappy. At that time, the agreement would be cancelled, which was not what they wanted to see. As for Teresa and Keith, they simply didn't know what to do. They were a little at a loss. After all, suddenly, Kai said that he didn't care about them and let them handle it themselves. They didn't know where to start for a moment. As for Liz, she was waiting for the 2 little sisters to make a move. Kai waited for a long time before saying, "Are you waiting for me to say start?" Teresa immediately blushed and retorted, "Nonsense. We are thinking about strategy." "You know strategy, right?" Kai nodded, indicating that he understood. So he quickly shut up. With Kai's interruption, Teresa and others immediately returned to normal. "I'll go first." Teresa threw out the hammer. Mjolnir, wrapped in lightning, hit Snart at once. Snart didn't hesitate. He raised his freezing gun and aimed at the hammer and fired. With a burst of blue light, large pieces of ice covered and buried the flying hammer. Not only that, Snart also activated the flight system of the mecha, flew directly into the sky, and kept shooting at Teresa, who threw the hammer. On the other side, Keith was also very simple. He just raised his bang-bang gun and fired at Mark. The bang-bang gun is a 6-barrel machine gun, a bit like a Gatling. But since Keith's strength is not particularly great, this machine gun has been modified and fired by electromagnetic power, and the recoil is much smaller. But the firing rate and power are not small at all. However, this time Mark did not use the energy shield or his own ability to dodge or stop the bullets. He took out a gun from his back and raised it. The front end of the gun suddenly opened and turned into 3 metal brackets. Then a blue light emerged from the tip of the metal bracket and turned into a blue energy field. Then all the bullets, as if the pause button was pressed, all suspended in the blue energy field. Kai raised his eyebrows. He had never seen such a thing, at least not on the weapons and equipment of the Chitauri. And judging from its craftsmanship, the DIY traces were extremely serious, with obvious traces of human industry. This should be a weapon made by Adrian and his gang themselves. Kai was not wrong. That thing is called an anti-gravity gun, which was reused by the Tinker Mason from the wreckage of the Chitauri's anti-gravity device. I have to say that Mason is really capable. He turned the things on the flight system into weapons. This is as difficult as if you turned the paint engine of an airplane into a weapon. It is very difficult. This thing can generate a traction field out of thin air to pull objects. Gravity or gravitational force is something that is beautiful and empty, but it has a real existence. Everything will be pulled by gravity. Gravity is a manifestation of gravity, and sometimes it can be equivalent. Bullets are of course no exception. Its high speed and ability to fly do not mean that it can get rid of gravity. Everything in the universe is affected by gravity, even light and time are no exception. Of course, this gun cannot distort time, and it is difficult to distort light. But a mere bullet is still enough. Keith didn't believe it, and he fired at Mark. However, it was useless, except that Mark had a bunch of bullets. It was meaningless. With Keith's contribution, there was already a lot of metal in front of Mark, and those were bullets. Keith was young and not strong, so he could only carry so many bullets. In less than a minute, the bullets were cleared. Keith was very angry. She swore that after returning, she would modify her bang-bang gun. No more live ammunition. Just change it to an energy weapon. Although energy weapons also have a lot of problems to solve, such as energy, stability and so on. But the benefits are also great. First of all, the weight she needs can be reduced a lot. After all, there is no need to carry so much ammunition, and after changing to an energy weapon, the bang-bang gun does not need such a long barrel, and the weight is reduced again. But before Keith can continue to attack with other methods, Mark also launched a counterattack. Mark himself is a desperado. He can't just take a beating without fighting back. When he gets angry, he doesn't care about so many messy things. Just kill the other party first. He was shot by Keith for such a long time, and he was also very angry. The indicator light of his damaged anti-gravity gun suddenly turned red. The originally blue energy field suddenly turned red. The bullets immediately shot out along the trajectory they came from. Chapter 1566 Second Update. Not to mention Keith, even Kai was stunned by this scene. I didn't expect there is such a way to play. I've never heard of an anti-gravity engine with such a function. At least when the Chitauri installed this thing, they definitely didn't expect it to be used in this way. Mason is really a talent. From this point of view, Mason's death is definitely a huge loss. Fortunately, someone reacted quickly enough. Liz? Liz used to be a girl who liked to show off. After all, from all aspects, she was good enough and naturally didn't mind showing it. Since her family encountered an accident, it seemed to wake her up from the princess's dream all of a sudden. It even made her thoughts take a 180-degree turn. She believed that everything she was proud of was built on lies and sins. Although Liz was not a superficial girl and would not think that money represented everything. But it is undeniable that the reason why she was so confident was definitely due to the influence of her family environment. It was precisely because her growing environment was so good that she had a sense of superiority over other children. You know, Liz was not a kind person before. As a cheerleader, it was inevitable for her to bully her classmates. Even Peter was tricked by her. As a child, who doesn't have some youthful frivolity? But overall, she is still a good child. But as the lie was exposed, her father was not a successful businessman, but a criminal. A criminal who sold alien arms. This made Liz full of guilt. Especially when she thought of the memory of her bullying classmates in school, she had the urge not to go to school. Although she still overcame these, her personality changed. She no longer liked to show off and began to work hard to learn to take care of others. Even further, she became a giving personality, always consciously or unconsciously taking the needs of others more seriously. For example, now, although they are fighting together, she puts herself in a supporting position. The moment she saw Mark launch a counterattack, Liz flew in front of Keith and hugged her, and at the same time spread the steel wings behind her to wrap herself and Keith. The mecha that Liz is wearing is actually the mecha that Adrian made for himself, the vulture exoskeleton flying mecha. Adrian usually uses the prototype, and that mecha is really an exoskeleton, with many parts of the body exposed. After all, Adrian didn't think of relying on the mecha to do anything too dangerous at the time, just like the name he gave the mecha, Vulture. He just wanted to steal some alien parts from the Disaster Control Bureau, just like the vulture eating some leftovers. Until he was blocked by Spider-Man later, Adrian's mood changed at that time, so he asked Mason to make a new generation of Vulture Mecha. The upgraded Vulture Mecha changed the body layout, removed the old turbine device, and added a new power system, vacuum sealing system, various external weapons and defensive armor. In particular, the mechanical wings have changed from the previous turbine power system to a more advanced anti-gravity system. At the same time, the wingsuit has become remote-controlled, retractable, deformable and bulletproof. It is more of a weapon and tool rather than providing lift. The wingtip is very similar to the bird design, can be forked and deformed, and provides shearing function. The upgraded mechanical wing can be deformed in a larger range and more complex, similar to the folding of a bird's wings, so that it can fit on the surface of the transporter and provide a vacuum-sealed environment. Both versions of the mechanical wing can be operated synchronously without manual control. The wing is very strong and can easily cut metal. Unfortunately, Adrian did not have the chance to wear this mecha before he was murdered by Ms. Octopus. Then Liz inherited this mecha, and with the help of Mason, the improved version of the vulture became the Nightingale. It has to be said that this mecha has always been a bit of a pearl in Liz's hands. She has always played a supporting role and fulfilled the role of a protector, and has not played the true performance of this mecha at all. Its advantages lie in firepower, mobility and offensiveness, but it is not very suitable for protection. But there is no way, Liz is such a personality now. As the bullets vented on the wings, a large number of red warning signs flashed in the computer of Liz's helmet. Although its wing part uses alien materials, don't think that alien materials are indestructible. At least it can't withstand such intensive shooting. Her mechanical wings have begun to break. If she continues like this, she and Keith will be in danger. At this moment, Teresa suddenly rushed over. Seeing this scene, Kai's heart almost stopped. Although it is wrong to think so, Kai does care more about Teresa than Liz. Fortunately, the spell that Odin cast on Mjolnir has not been broken. Whoever holds this hammer and deserves it will have the power of Thor. This thing was just a test of Thor by Odin before. I guess Odin didn't expect that this thing is actually a chance for others. If you want to pick up Thor's hammer, the conditions are difficult and simple. There are only two conditions. People who are just, kind and recognized by Thor's hammer. To be honest, the first condition is not difficult. Although there are not too many just and kind people in this world, there are definitely many. This thing is more against one's will. The second condition is more difficult, that is, people who are recognized by Thor's hammer. This thing is completely the subjective will of Thor's hammer. Whoever it likes is qualified. In fact, there is no difference between the first and second conditions. Who is to judge good and evil? There can't be a god in the world who labels everyone, right? Of course, it is Hammer who thinks who is good and who is evil. Both conditions rely on Hammer's own judgment. Teresa. Anyway, Hammer recognized Teresa, so she has the power of Thor. Odin's curse allows others to have Thor's power, Thor before coming to Earth. Teresa stood in front of the two people. She didn't think so much. She was just worried about her little sister, so her mind was hot. At the same time, deep in her heart, she instinctively felt that she could do it. Ding ding ding. Despite this, Teresa still closed her eyes nervously, but the pain she imagined was not that strong. It was like being thrown at her with marbles. Although it hurt, it was not that unbearable. She opened her eyes and found that the bullets that hit her body were all bounced off. Wahahaha. I'm so awesome. Teresa's first reaction was this. I can actually block bullets. Chapter 1567 First Update. Seeing Teresa standing there with a proud face blocking the bullets, Emma and little Bernard both expressed envy. Emma was really envious, while little Bernard didn't fully understand what was going on. He just envied Teresa's pride and wanted to be like Teresa. Dad, Emma pulled Kai. What's wrong? Honey, Kai enjoyed Emma's address. She used to call him Wayne Dad. Although they were both dads, Kai always felt like a stepfather after adding the last name. It's more intimate to just call him Dad. I want that too, Emma made the request without hesitation. Kai was embarrassed for a moment, but Dad only has one of this thing. Could he give the ultimate storm to her? That wouldn't work. Even if he gave it to Emma, she couldn't use it. Emma wasn't as tall as the ultimate storm. Dad must have a way to get another one, right? Emma looked at Kai with sparkling eyes. Kai couldn't resist it a little. But on second thought, it seemed, it wasn't impossible. Did he always worry about the children getting hurt? Why not find them more powerful weapons? He really doesn't have any, but Asgard does. Not to mention his relationship with Asgard, the dragon bone in his hand is enough for him to get anything he wants from Asgard. Well, it's decided. I'll go to Asgard sometime later to buy more. Dad, think of a way, Kai said. Little Bernard also got excited all of a sudden. I want one too. I want one too. No, dear, you're too young. Those things are too dangerous, Kai hurriedly persuaded. Why? My sisters all have them. I want them too. I want them too. The little guy immediately started to make a fuss. You'll have them when you grow up. I absolutely can't give them to you now. Of course, Kai couldn't just give in. Although Kai was very unprincipled in front of his daughter, there were some things he really couldn't do, such as little Bernard. She was really too young and didn't understand anything. Giving her those things was not only irresponsible to her, but also to others. On the contrary, Kai was actually the least worried about Emma. She was the smartest, and Kai was more confident in her than Teresa. Then little Bernard started to make a fuss. Actually, she didn't understand the value of those things at all. She just simply thought that if her sister had them, she should have them too. She was jealous. She was just a child. Kai could only coax her. He was coaxing a child here. This made the emotions of the people who were fighting a little inconsistent. No, big brother, please respect us. We are fighting. Teresa was the calmest. She was fearless now. She raised her hand, and the hammer that was originally frozen trembled a few times, then suddenly broke the ice that frozen it and flew directly into Teresa's hand. Wow, ha ha ha. I'm so awesome. Case, did you see it? Liz, did you see it? Isn't it handsome? Isn't it handsome? Case and Liz, who had finally recovered, looked at Teresa jumping up and down there, and were a little speechless. No, you should be more serious. But soon, Case was infected. She looked at the hammer in Teresa's hand with envy, and then turned to look at Kai, her eyes sparkling. Although it's a bit embarrassing to say this. But before, Kai asked her to call him Dad, right? Since we are father and daughter, don't be so polite. How about giving me a hammer too? No way, we are father and daughter, you won't treat me as an outsider, right? Do you treat me as an outsider? Although it seems a bit undignified, but dignity is not as cool as a hammer. Calling someone dad, you can get such a cool hammer. She feels that it's not a loss at all. Teresa finally had enough of showing off, and then put on her helmet, and pointed the hammer at Snart and Mark and said, surrender. Snart and Mark looked at each other. Both sides saw hope in each other's eyes. To be honest, the ability shown by Teresa did make them a little desperate. But on the other hand, Teresa's performance just now gave them infinite hope. If it was an adult. No, even if Teresa had just behaved a little more steadily, Snart and Mark would have to consider the issue of surrender. Mark was a little worse, he didn't want to go to jail, so his willingness to surrender might be a little worse. But Snart didn't have much pressure. Snart wasn't some superpowered criminal, so it was unlikely that he would be put in a special prison. It was only a heavy prison with a higher security level. When Snart was still a minor character, he often went to prison and wished that the prison was his home. It was only after repeated advanced training that Snart became a complete body and became a world-famous high IQ criminal. It can even be said that it was because he was accused too many times that Snart understood how to avoid the police's pursuit and the prosecutor's accusation. He was not a college student. Everything he learned now was learned from prison. Prison is a good place. At worst, if he gets bored, he can find a way to escape. He was very confident about this. However, Teresa's childish behavior gave him confidence. If he could avoid going to prison, of course he wouldn't go. So Snart nodded to Mark. This time Mark understood Snart's intention. Mark waved his hand, and a large amount of fog appeared out of thin air. It covered the two of them. Haha. Is that all you can do? Teresa is Thor. She took the leather cover at the end of Thor's hammer and spun it quickly. A strong wind flew out of it, blowing away the fog completely. But when the fog dissipated, there was no one. Up there, Keith shouted. Sure enough, two figures were suspended in the sky. Don't run. Teresa was anxious and immediately threw out her Thor's hammer. But Thor's hammer easily passed through the two figures. It was like passing through the air. When the hammer passed through, the figures of the two people twisted and disappeared. Teresa was stunned. However, before she could react, a blue light suddenly shot at her. Then Teresa started from her feet and froze little by little. Teresa was horrified and wanted to summon the hammer back. But she immediately found that the hammer did not respond to her. She turned her head and saw that the hammer was shrouded in an energy field. Then Mark walked out of the empty air. The anti-gravity gun in his hand was in operation. Teresa was about to say something, but she was completely frozen in the ice. At this time, Thor's hammer also converged its light, and it hit the ground with a bang like ordinary iron. Keith immediately wanted to help, but a gust of wind blew, and Snart rushed to her side, grabbed her neck, and placed a round metal ball emitting pink light in front of her. Don't move. This is an iron bomb. Once it explodes, I don't need to tell you the consequences. Chapter 1568 Second Update. Liz wanted to rush over to save people, but at this time a blue energy field enveloped her, and then there was a sound of metal tearing, and Liz's mechanical wings were torn off alive. However, she herself was not hurt. It was Mark. After Thor's hammer lost control, Mark immediately turned the gun and aimed at Liz. The two cooperated perfectly, leaving them no chance. Don't move. Snart held the iron bomb and shouted at Liz, who was still trying to move. If you dare to come over, I will detonate it directly. Then no one will survive. Mark quickly rushed to Snart's side, with a heroic attitude of dying together. Actually, Mark was not heroic at all. If he could, he would definitely leave Snart and run away. It was just that Kai was staring at him covetously, so he really didn't dare to run. Without Kai's approval, he didn't have the courage. Moreover, what if Kai held him hostage in order to save his daughter? He didn't believe that Snart would give up the hostages for him. So it's safer to stay with Snart. At least he's smarter, isn't he? Liz really didn't dare to move. She didn't know what an iron bomb was, but she didn't dare to gamble. On the other side, Emma nervously grabbed Kai's clothes. Dad, are Teresa and the others okay? Little Bernard didn't make a fuss at this time. She still cared about her sister. It's okay, she won't die. And Snart doesn't have that determination. Snart is a smart person. Smart people generally don't like to get stuck in a rut. They will think a lot, so they are more afraid of death than ordinary people. Smart people can always think of various ways out, which makes it more difficult for them to risk it. So there are not many smart people among terrorists. Most of them are stubborn people who rush forward to die in a fit of anger. So Kai didn't believe that Snart would die together. In this case, what else is there to worry about? What about Teresa? She's frozen into an ice stick. Compared with Keith and Liz, Teresa's situation looks more urgent. Then there's no need to worry. Kai still just waved his hand. With the protection of the power of Thor, she won't die. At most she will suffer a little. If Teresa's life was really in danger, Kai would have taken action long ago, and he would not be here to watch the show. Let Keith go, Liz shouted at Snart. No problem. As long as you let us go. Although Snart said these words to Liz, he actually said them to Kai. It would be difficult for them to run away if Kai didn't nod. In fact, holding these girls hostage was also aimed at Kai. After all, they were not afraid of a few girls. If it weren't for Kai, they would have used some dirty tricks to get rid of them long ago. Liz was of course unwilling to let these people go like this. After all, they were all the murderers who killed Mason. Although Jesse was the most hateful, it didn't mean that they could be forgiven. But her sisters were in the hands of the enemy. But Keith shouted at Liz, Liz, don't agree to them. You can't let them go. Mason was killed by them. We must take revenge. After that, the girl actually went to grab the bomb from Snart's hand. This scared Snart, who had never seen such a fierce girl. If this thing exploded, it would really kill them all. Liz was also scared. Fortunately, Snart and his team had two grown men wearing mechas, and they quickly subdued Keith. Now Liz couldn't let Keith get hurt. Sometimes people are very strange. For example, your teammate was held hostage by the enemy, and your teammate was ugly and did everything he could to survive. You probably wished he would die, because you think it's not worth it. But if your teammate is unyielding, facing the threat of the enemy, not only did he not give in, but he actively asked for death, then your feelings will be completely different, and your willingness to save him will increase by hundreds of percentage points. So Case's initiative to commit suicide not only made Liz lose the will to persist, but also deepened her desire to save Case. Okay. I promise you. Don't hurt her, Liz shouted quickly. But Snart didn't let go and looked at Kai. Kai didn't say anything. He would not make decisions for them. They chose everything by themselves. Kai said that this was a training for them. So he looked at Snart with a smile. Snart understood Kai's intention. This made him feel humiliated, but he knew that this was a test prepared by Kai for his children. They had to bear all of this, and Kai would only ensure their safety. What about you? Little girl, what are you going to do? Snart bowed his head and said to Case. Bah. I will never let you go even if I die. At best, we can die together, Case was very tough. She was really not afraid of death when she went crazy. Snart had a headache. This kind of kid was the most troublesome. Snart was a high IQ criminal. Although he used to run a solo gang, it didn't mean that he would do everything alone. He was more like a criminal planner. He would make a plan and then look for a team. Some desperate and not very smart bastards were the best targets. He would use them to commit crimes and then kill them to silence them. In this way, he would get all the benefits of the crime, but the risks would be minimized. But he rarely cooperated with the brats. In fact, compared to those desperate criminals, brats were easier to fool. But he never teamed up with them because these brats could always make a mess of things. But it didn't matter, he just had a headache, but it wasn't to the point where he had no other choice. He pinched Case's chin and turned her head towards the direction where Teresa was frozen. Maybe you are not afraid of death, but what about her? Do you know how terrible it is to be frozen? I can tell you, when you are exposed to temperatures below 25 degrees below zero for a long time, your body will first be frostbitten. When the low temperature damages the epidermis, the skin will become red and swollen, and you will feel itchy and burning. In the winter in the north, if you often go outdoors, your ears, hands, and feet may be frostbitten. This is first-degree frostbite. If you move to a warm environment at this time, you can generally recover within a few days. My freezing gun can create absolute zero in an instant. Do you know absolute zero? Don't worry. With the physical fitness that the girl just showed, she won't be frozen to death all at once. She should be in the first stage of frostbite I mentioned. But can you guarantee that she can really continue to resist? Snart didn't yell, but was neither hurried nor slow. His voice was deep and full of emotion, as if he was really doing science popularization seriously. However, this made Keith feel more and more panic. The real threat is never yelling or saying some irrelevant words. Instead, he spoke slowly and calmly about what was about to happen. When the damage reaches the dermis, the skin will be red and swollen, accompanied by blisters, severe pain, and the frostbitten parts will begin to slow down. After the blisters burst, scars will form. When the temperature continues to drop, the damage reaches the entire cortex, and the skin gradually turns white, brown, and black, and the tissue necrosis occurs. In severe cases, it can reach the subcutaneous tissue, muscles, and bones, causing necrosis of the entire limb. At this time, the human brain will react, and when the body temperature drops, the body will automatically begin to breathe faster, the heart rate will speed up, and the metabolism will increase. But as the body temperature continues to drop, the body's excitement begins to weaken. At this time, the body's energy has been exhausted, the brain begins to hallucinate, and consciousness begins to blur. At this time, people will smile unconsciously, and many people I kill will die with a smile. Tell me, little girl, can your friend really hold on? Chapter 1569 First update. Not to mention Keith, even Emma was scared when she heard this. She immediately grabbed Kai's clothes and stared at him closely. It seemed that she was asking her if it was true. Kai nodded. It is true. Then is Teresa in danger? Yes, even Thor could be killed, so Teresa was no exception. Of course, there is a big difference between them. Teresa could certainly be frozen to death, but at least Snart's freezing gun couldn't do it. In other words, unless he could use the freezing gun to shoot Teresa continuously to keep her frozen, she might die after a long time. But for now, she is still far from death. Otherwise, Kai would have taken action long ago. Then go and save her, Emma hit Kai. Don't worry, she won't die for a while, Kai said calmly, everything is their choice. They deserve to be taught a lesson. Emma struggled to get out of Kai's arms and stand with her little sister. But Kai didn't let go. Don't make trouble, can't you see? If Snart and the others hadn't shown mercy, even with you, you would still be in danger. Then you just watched like this. What else? Teresa asked for it herself, Kai said. Seeing that Kai didn't let her go, Emma gave up struggling and just turned her head away and ignored him. Kai didn't care. Kai had never thought it would be like this before, but since it has become like this, Kai thinks there is nothing wrong with it. These children have been too successful, which has led to their lack of awe. It's okay to fail once, at least he is still by their side, and it's no big deal if they fail. If they always take things so simply, they will suffer a great loss one day. Usually Kai manages them, and they blame Kai, thinking that he shouldn't discipline them. As a result, now they blame Kai for not caring about them. So, raising children is difficult. Case obviously didn't notice Kai and Emma's little dispute. When she heard Snart say those terrible words, she finally began to be afraid. She herself didn't care, but she couldn't remain indifferent to the danger of her little sister. What do you think? Little girl? What is your choice? Do you not surrender and die together, or let us go and everyone can survive? Keith, Liz shouted to Keith. She also heard what Snart said. At this time, the worry about Teresa surpassed everything. Keith didn't hesitate anymore. You won. Thank you, little girl. Snart finally breathed a sigh of relief. But he didn't let Keith go immediately, but looked at Kai not far away. Kai shrugged. We agreed. I won't break my promise. He really didn't intend to break his promise. Snart nodded, but didn't relax at all. He let go of Keith and pushed her to Liz, then took Mark and faced Kai and the others, step by step, and waited until they were about the same distance. From beginning to end, Kai didn't move, which made Snart and the others feel relieved. He took off directly and ran away. When Snart and the others ran away, Keith and Liz immediately rushed to the ice. Teresa in the ice was still struggling. Her eyes were wide open and she was still terrified. Keith was about to cry. So she immediately wanted to break the ice to rescue her little sister. But Liz immediately held her back. No. If you break the ice, won't that break Teresa too? No matter how smart a high school student is, he is still a high school student. He has never seen someone frozen in ice. Well, there are probably not many people in this world who have really seen this scene. After all, it is too difficult for nature to encounter such a situation. Liz actually saw it on TV, and it was a TV show. Those frozen people were immediately broken into pieces with a hammer. She didn't understand, but she felt that there must be some basis for the TV show, so she held Keith back. Keith was stunned. She naturally had no experience, but when she thought of the scene Liz described, she immediately dropped the things in her hand and took a few steps back, fearing that she would accidentally break Teresa. What should I do? Keith was a little hesitant. How about melting the ice? Liz suggested. Yes, yes, yes. Fire. Fire. Make a fire. Kate seemed to have found some panacea, jumping up and down in a hurry, but she didn't know what to do. Kate seemed to have her own ideas, but in fact, when things really happened, it was Liz who was always following her buttocks who could handle things better. In fact, it was true. Although Liz always acted like a quail and dared not say anything, she was actually the cheerleader. The cheerleader of a school may not be the smartest or the most beautiful, but she must be the best at handling interpersonal relationships. In other words, she has high emotional intelligence and organizational skills. Although Kate was always noisy and seemed to be the big sister, she was actually a homebody. It was hard to tell at ordinary times, but when it came to an emergency, she was at a loss. So in their small group, although Kate was the boss at ordinary times, she was the big sister. But in fact, Emma is the one who makes the decision at ordinary times, and when it comes to the critical moment, it is Liz, the little girl, who takes care of everyone and fulfills the duties of the eldest sister. She actually knows the most. It's not about IQ. Keith is very smart. He knows hacking technology, inventions, and even chemistry. How can his IQ be low? Knowing a lot here means knowing a lot about daily life. For example, Liz can cook. She really can cook. She knew how to cook before her father got into trouble. Taking care of things has little to do with IQ. Where can we get fire? Keith was so anxious that she jumped up and down. If it's a little later, her little sisters will be frozen to death. Okay, by the time you find the fire, Teresa will really be frozen to death. Kai finally came over at this time. He came to Keith's side and snorted with disdain. Humph. You're at a disadvantage this time, right? Do you still dare to be fearless? Do you really think you are invincible? Kai's arrival reminded Keith in an instant that, yes, Kai was right next to him. Keith didn't care about Kai's lesson at this moment, and pulled Kai with tears in her eyes. Go away. You're just making trouble and setting fire to it. By the time you're done, Teresa will be dead. Kai raised his hand and flicked his finger at the ice. Crack. The ice began to crack rapidly. Everything happened too fast, so fast that Keith and Liz couldn't stop it in time. Then there were continuous cracking sounds. Then there was a crash. It broke all over the ground. The two girls quickly covered their eyes. They were afraid of seeing something terrible. As a result, sneezes. It's so cold. I'm freezing. It was Teresa's voice. Hearing the sisters' voices, the two little girls immediately opened their eyes and found Teresa standing in the middle of the broken ice, holding her arms and shivering. Ah, too. The two girls screamed and rushed towards Teresa. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1572nd Update. The two sisters hugged the trembling Teresa and screamed. It was as if they had really escaped death. Of course, it was almost the same for them. This might be the first time they faced such a dangerous scene. In the past, they were successful in everything they did. Whether it was sneaking out to do justice or interacting with people. They were very successful. So much so that they subconsciously thought that the world should be what they thought. They never thought that all this was because they had a good backer. Their father was Kai. In this country, Kai's name can definitely help them smooth out most of the troubles. No matter who it is, they have to have Kai's face. Teresa was freezing at the moment. Although she was not in danger of her life, she would not feel good. Even if Thor himself was frozen, he would be freezing, not to mention Teresa, a monkey version of Thor. Moreover, there was more to it. Kai waved his hand directly, and Thor's hammer, which was originally quietly placed on the ground, flew back to Kai's hand with a whoosh. Then Kai flipped his hand and Thor's hammer was put away. The armor and cloak on Teresa's body also disappeared in the next second. They changed back to their original outfit. Ah. It hurts. It hurts. What's going on? Ah, it's so cold, so cold. Oh, it hurts, it hurts. At home. Teresa was wrapped in a blanket, holding a cup of hot cocoa in both hands, and her body was still shaking. Waynad. Why didn't you help me? And let those two guys go? Teresa finally recovered, and now she can at least speak normally. Kai held a cup of wolfberry tea and drank it sip by sip. Kai likes to drink hot tea very much, preferably the kind that burns the mouth. But most of the time, he doesn't have time to drink it like this, because it takes time and drink it slowly. Don't think about anything, don't care about anything, just sit on the sofa, your mind is empty, and a sip of hot tea can kill most of the day. But this time is really rare. When the tea is cold, it doesn't taste that good. My Miss Teresa seems to have forgotten what she told me before. Kai raised his eyebrows and said with a smile. Teresa certainly didn't forget. But why should she obey? She is a girl. I don't care. You actually let two criminals go. This is a crime. You never did that before. Oh, who did I do that for? Teresa was immediately unhappy and felt very wronged. She threw off the blanket on her body. She was wearing a small suspender and pajamas, and her body was covered with purple spots. That was caused by bullets. Then you just watch me get beaten like this, puff. I don't know who started it. Then the whole room was filled with a joyful atmosphere. The power of Thor can indeed protect her from harm, but it is only weakened, not really immune, so when the power of Thor fades, it will be the same as it should be. In the comics and the movie, Jane got Thor's hammer and became the female Thor. However, Jane who became the female Thor was invulnerable to weapons and fire, but after the transformation, she was still a cancer patient. Teresa looks like Perdita. The ignorant little Bernard suddenly said this. Little Bernard had just watched 101 Dalmatians not long ago. This animated film is very famous in the United States. After all, it could gross $216 million at the box office in 1961, which shows how sensational this movie was at the time. This movie even made Dalmatian dogs popular all over the world. And Perdita is the heroine in this movie, the female dog who fell in love with a Dalmatian Pongo and left 15 puppies. To be honest, I have always been confused about the translation of Perdita. The English name of Perdita is Perdita. Wouldn't it be better to translate it as Perdita or Perdita, so basically everyone knows what Little Bernard means? It means that Teresa now looks like a Dalmatian. Ho ha ho ha. Suddenly, the happy atmosphere in the room turned into laughter. Teresa was so angry that she screamed and chased Little Bernard to spank her. Little Bernard was not afraid at all, and hid behind Kai and made faces at her. Alright, seeing that the fight was almost over, Kai suppressed Teresa and Little Bernard with one hand. Remember what I said before. They are your prey, and I will not interfere. I promised, and I will not change my mind, Kai said seriously. I have been indulgent to you all the time, but I have never asked you to give up your own responsibilities." Kai looked around at the children and looked at them seriously. "I say again, they are your responsibility. It was you who let them go. So it is up to you to find a way to catch them. Don't think this is a trivial matter. My children, because of you, they ran away and continued to be at large, which means that any crime they commit is your responsibility. Don't think I'm kidding." Teresa didn't dare to make a fuss anymore. She was not really shirking responsibility. It was just, she felt ashamed. Kai had helped them so much, but they still messed up. Especially Teresa. They were so confident, but because of her, Keith and Liz had to give in. Although the two sisters did not blame her, they blamed themselves. But the more this happened, the more Teresa felt that she had messed up everything. But the little girl's self-esteem did not allow her to admit her mistakes. Children are like this. Sometimes, even if they know they are wrong, they still refuse to admit defeat. In fact, not only children, but also many adults are like this. There are few people who can really face their mistakes. So this doesn't count. Teresa was a little unconvinced. Of course, it was more of an embarrassment, just a pretense. This was the first time Liz stood up and said, "Uncle Wayne. I remember. I will definitely catch those two bastards with my own hands." Keith was more straightforward than Teresa. She also stood up. "Well, these two guys escaped from our hands, so we will definitely catch them back." Kai was very pleased to see them like this. But Teresa was still a little, how to say, embarrassed. But Kai would not push her too much. After all, his real purpose was not to embarrass her, but to make her remember. "So what are you going to do? You know, you just lost miserably." These words made the girls feel ashamed. The more confident they were before, the more embarrassed they were now. Liz pulled Keith, who had the strongest self-esteem. Keith's face changed, and he gritted his teeth. "We will train hard. And prove ourselves." The adults present were very pleased to hear Keith say this. Teresa was also touched. Even Keith could say such words, so what was there for her to be afraid of? "That's right. We will ask Daredevil to give us special training later. We must get back the lost face ourselves." But Kai was still a little dissatisfied. He looked at Teresa and continued to ask, "Is that all?" Teresa was a little shy when Kai looked at her, but after thinking about what happened just now, it was already like this, so what else could she not do? "Don't be arrogant anymore, and don't look down on others anymore." Kai felt relieved now. If they could figure this out, it would be worth their failure. Sometimes, the education of adults is actually not as strong as the children's own understanding. Didn't Kai tell them these truths? He did. It's just that they didn't take it to heart. This time is different. They really received an education. Chapter 1571, Hunting for Beauty in the Bar. The rogues suffered heavy losses. Peakman was embedded in the wall and died without even a chance to struggle. After all, the substance phase transfer device essentially transfers the covered substance to another space. When the device is destroyed, the substance will return to its original position. Peakman happened to be there at this time, so her body merged with the wall at the first moment. She was not suffocated to death, because she was already dead before she was suffocated. After all, no one can bear the tissue cells in the body being filled with cement at the first moment, including the brain. Jesse was burned to ashes by Sage's gun. Heatwave was not much better. His arm was blown off. When the police arrived to rescue him, he was only half a breath left. After a lot of rescue, he was saved, but now he is still lying in the ICU. According to the doctor, it is unknown whether he can wake up. After all, the explosion was too close to him, right in his hand. If it weren't for the protection of the mecha, he wouldn't even have a chance to be rescued. But even so, Heatwave will never have a chance to go out and do evil again. Master Mirror was quite good. He stayed in the bank and didn't go anywhere. When the police came, he followed the police back obediently. He was not prosecuted, and even joined the Special Forces and became a scout of the Special Forces. Kai didn't care about this kind of gangster. Moreover, the public didn't know about the operation against the rogue gang. Everyone just thought it was an ordinary superhero versus villain drama, so there was no resistance to recruiting Master Mirror. There were only 2 people who escaped, and they were very upset about it. They came to New York with full confidence, but in the end only 2 of them escaped. They didn't even dare to go back to Los Angeles. Although they didn't get nothing, at least at this stage, they didn't dare to jump around. They planned to go out and hide from the limelight. "What should we do?" Mark and his friends are now staying in a bar in Texas. Fortunately, both of them are white and have not been discriminated against here. They dare not return to the city because they are afraid of Kai's revenge. After all, they just escaped, and if they make trouble at this time, it would be a bit unwise. But now there is a serious problem in front of them. That is, they have no money. It sounds incredible, but it is true. They were very rich before, and they robbed a lot of money. But this time they escaped, and they didn't take all the money with them. It was all in their lair. Thinking of Master Mirror, they didn't count on the money. Of course, some people will ask, don't they put the money in the bank? People who ask this question must have forgotten what they did before. They are bank robbers. They don't trust banks. After all, banks are always robbed by them. They trust themselves more, and they always carry a lot of cash. There is no such thing as transferring money in their business. They don't even have an account. Because they don't want to pay federal taxes. From this point of view, these bastards are really pure bastards. What should I do? We have no money. Mark didn't understand why Snart was so calm. Man, don't forget what we do. Everyone here is our wallet. If we have no money, we can just rob some. You know that's not what I'm talking about, Mark said angrily. Who do you think we are? Little thugs who only rob passers-by? We want to do a big job. Perhaps it is long-term behavior that has led them to form a habit. They feel uncomfortable if they don't rob some banks. It's a habit that's hard to imagine. Man, I know you'll feel panicked if you don't have money, but believe me, okay. Everything will be there. Snart knew why Mark was like this. He didn't want to stay in this small place. He wanted to go back to the big city and live a life of luxury. Money is just an excuse. What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for that bastard to issue a nationwide notice saying that we are no longer wanted? Mark could still bear it at first, but he couldn't bear it after a few days. Instead of staying in this rural place, living in a moldy motel every day, and only flirting with some cousins, it would be better to let Kai arrest them. Mark's home is actually in Texas. His family is a typical redneck, and his ancestors have been dealing with the fields. Unfortunately, the United States is not friendly to farmers. Although the United States is the most developed agricultural country in the world, the real money is made by those big farmers. Not only do they have the capital to engage in mechanized planting, but they can also get large subsidies. Yes, there are subsidies for farming in the United States, but the ones who can really get those subsidies are the big farmers and those related capitals. The farmers who really farm honestly don't get much benefit. Their family is like this. Their farm is always in deficit, so they can only sell land to subsidize. As a result, the family's land is getting less and less, and they are getting poorer and poorer. In the end, their family lost their land and became penniless. This is also Mark's impression of home, poverty, violence and discrimination. He was fed up with the boredom and poverty of his hometown, so he fled his hometown with his brother and started his own business. As a result, he is back here now. He really hates it. If possible, he never wants to return to this terrible environment for the rest of his life. Don't worry, that kind of big guy won't take us to heart, although Snart came out to hide. In fact, he believed deep in his heart that Kai would not come to trouble them specifically. As for why he hid, it was more out of caution and respect. But we must show respect, such as being quiet for a while, Snart said. Mark was a little irritable. He didn't want to stay here. Too boring. But at this moment, the bartender served them 2 new glasses of wine. We didn't order it, Mark said impatiently. The bartender pointed to the corner and said, it was sent by that guest. I guess he is interested in you. Mark and Snart were very curious about this. After all, they didn't come to the bar just to drink. They could drink anywhere, and they didn't need to come to the bar specifically. In fact, 80% of coming to the bar is for socializing. If you are single, the focus is on the word after socializing. Of course, coming to the bar is to hunt for beauty. If there is a romantic encounter, neither Snart nor Mark would want to miss it. As a result, Mark turned his head and saw that his face was distorted. It was not a beautiful woman, or even a woman, but a muscular man with a beard and a hat. When he saw them looking over, he raised his glass and raised it to them like a gay. You. Mark immediately turned his head and ignored him. He wanted to hunt for beauty, not be hunted. However, he found that Snart actually picked up the glass and stood up, and it seemed that he was going to go over. No. Brother. What's wrong with you? I know you've been in jail, but you can't do this. At least find a gigolo. Wait. If he can even accept this, then At this moment, Mark wanted to break up. He really wanted Snart to help him get revenge, but for revenge he wouldn't sell his soul or anything. Mark didn't care. But selling his body was fine, especially when the target was a grown man. However, the next second, something even more horrifying happened. Snart grabbed his hand and wanted to take him with him. Hey. That's too much? Chapter 1572 Big Deal. At that moment, the image of the human centipede appeared in Mark's mind. He swore that he couldn't be the one in the middle. If he had to do it, he would be the last one. That was his last request. After all, Snart was very good at fighting, and that big bastard looked very fierce. He thought that he should not be his opponent. Hey, Craven, I didn't expect to see you here. What's the matter? Is there the prey you want here? But Mark's illusion was soon broken. Snart naturally greeted the big bastard. Do you know each other? Craven was a little strange. Why did this brother sound a little disappointed? It felt weird. Snart nodded. Hunter Craven, you should have heard of this name. What? He is the Hunter Craven. Although Mark pretended to be shocked, various information kept flashing back in his mind. Well, he had never heard of it at all. Ha. I'm just an ordinary hunter, but unfortunately, although Mark's acting skills were not very good, Craven still didn't see it. Instead, he happily greeted him in English with a full Russian accent. He was also very happy to take off his hat, revealing his cold bald head. His hairstyle was very consistent with his temperament. Ordinary. Snart saw that Mark didn't know Craven, so he took this opportunity to introduce him. This guy is the best hunter in the industry. He is a madman who likes to hunt rare species. In addition to him, humans are also animals. Hunter Craven. Among ordinary people, Craven is not famous. But among some special groups, Craven is definitely a great god. Just like his nickname, his profession is a hunter. Craven's real name is Sergei Kravenov. He is a descendant of Russian nobles. After World War I, a revolution broke out in Russia. His family was purged by the Red Army because they supported the White Army, so they immigrated to the United States. Craven was born and raised in the United States. In theory, he should be a thorough American. Craven, whose family fell into poverty, entered the bounty hunting business at a very young age. And he began to make a name for himself quickly. But soon, he quit the job because the work of a bounty hunter was different from what he imagined. What he wanted was the kind of exciting and thrilling hunting, not looking for idiots everywhere for a little bail. The passion and talent for hunting attracted him to Africa. Even today, when environmental protection is advocated, many people still go to Africa for hunting. Many white people like this sport, and even an industrial chain has been formed locally. As long as they pay, there will be hunters taking those white people to hunt any creatures they want to hunt. Craven has found his favorite profession and has become a leader in that business. Once in Kenya, he met a witch named Calypso who could use voodoo. After meeting the witch's requirements, he obtained a mysterious potion that could prolong his life and give him the strength of a beast. From then on, Craven became even more unstoppable, and he began to hunt all over the world. Any valuable target is within his hunting range, of course including people. But the premise is that the target is valuable. This value is defined by Craven. First of all, of course, this person is valuable, and someone is willing to pay a high price to hire him to hunt. Secondly, this person cannot be a nobody, he must have enough resistance, the stronger the better. This also led to Craven not making many moves. After all, such orders are too rare. But among special groups, Craven has a very good reputation. Because as long as he makes a move, it is absolutely clean and neat, and no matter where the target hides or how strong it is useless. The mission success rate is 100%. Mark used to be a rustic robber. How could he be exposed to such high-end information? And naturally he could not know Craven. But Snart is different. He is not always robbing, he also commits some other crimes, so he has some contact with Craven's circle. How did you find me? Forget it, this is nonsense. If it is you, it is normal to find me. Why, someone wants my head. Snart believes that Craven came to him, definitely not to reminisce. After all, the two are not that familiar. There are only two situations, either he came to cooperate with him, or he came to take his life. Ha. Don't worry, if I came to take your life, I wouldn't meet you like this. Hunters are not reckless men. Hunters will only wait patiently, waiting for the prey to show a flaw, and then kill it with one blow. It's not the hunter's style to come here so carelessly. I guess so. This is also the reason why Snart came directly. Why? Any introduction, that is to find him to cooperate. In their line of work, they also do donor business, including Craven. There's indeed a business, and I originally planned to find your rogue gang, but I came a step too late. When I got the news, you had already. So now I guess I have to find someone. But brother, you are the first candidate I have confirmed, huh? It sounds like a big deal. Craven is actually a lone ranger and rarely cooperates with others. This time he actually wants to pull in their rogue gang. This business must be big. As for what he said about finding someone else, Mark and Snart were very stable. It's like this, are you going to cry? There's no point. Mark didn't even cry about his brother's death. He should eat and drink. If you need revenge, you should take it. Who are you doing that for? Will his brother survive if he cries? Life and death are normal on this road. It's a big deal. The higher fee is $500 million to $100 million US dollars. Wow, Snart was indeed shocked. Don't think that $100 million US dollars is not a lot. In fact, it is already very, very much for them. You know, although they robbed banks before, it was a lot for a bank to rob them of 10 million. After all, not every bank is the Federal Reserve, and banks basically don't prepare so much cash. More importantly, even if the bank has 100 million, they can't take it away. A $100 bill is about 1.05 grams, and a ton of $100 bills is only 95.23 million US dollars. You rob a ton of US dollars, can you carry it? What's more, you can't guarantee that it's all $100 bills. You know, the denominations of US dollars are the same as RMB, all 100 yuan, 50 yuan, 20 yuan, 5 yuan, and 1 yuan. With this calculation, the 100 million US dollars is even heavier. So a deal worth over 100 million is extremely rare in the dark world. It's a big deal indeed. No wonder you're looking for someone, but why 500 million to 100 million? Does the client have requirements? Mark got excited when he heard it. This is a big deal. Yes. The client has high requirements. If we can bring the prey back intact, then $500 million will be ours. But if there is damage, then the price will be determined according to the damage. In the end, if it's a corpse, then we can only get 100 million. Chapter 1573 The Middleman. Hearing this, Snart's first reaction was, not to get involved. Damn, having money but no life to spend it is worse than having no money at all. But Mark was different. He was already blinded by the terrifying reward. What is the mission? Mark couldn't wait to ask. Snart wanted to stop him but couldn't. Why are you pulling me? Such a big deal. Why don't we do it? Mark, the idiot, pushed Snart's hand away and shouted directly. Ha ha ha. That's right, why don't we do such a big deal? Craven laughed at the side. Sometimes, this world needs some idiots. Snart wanted to say something, but Craven said first, our mission this time is to catch a baby animal. Snart's expression was as ugly as if his mother had died. You don't follow the rules. Craven was not panicked at all. No, I follow the rules. Your companions have agreed. Mark also came to his senses at this time. No matter how stupid he was, he knew something was wrong. You're fooling us. Mark pointed at Craven and yelled. If someone dared to point at him like that in normal times, Craven would definitely break that person in two and feed him to his lions. But this idiot is so cute that Craven couldn't bear to do it. No. I'm following the rules completely. Snart wanted to kill Mark. In this line of work, it's not uncommon for the other party to use tricks. Damn, there are no good people in this line of work. They are not good people anymore. Using tricks, is it uncommon? The key is whether you can find out. If you fall into the trap, then sorry, no one will pity you. You know, in their line of work, there are countless people who are cheated to death every year. However, no one cares about them. In this line of work, competition is cruel. Not only are peers competing, but Party A and Party B are also competing to a certain extent. What rules? Mark asked curiously. Snart glared at him fiercely. Once you know the content of the mission, you can't refuse the mission. Craven's business is a bit too simple to say that he is a simple killer. It is more like a mercenary, but it is more high-end, and only a very small number of people have the opportunity to contact him. They are more secretive, and often even involve secret missions such as state secrets. In short, The rewards are great, but the risks are also high. If you carry out a mission a few years ago and forget about it, the consequences will come to you. That's why Snart gradually stopped contacting this kind of business. It's too easy to overturn. Because it's hard to tell whether the people in this circle are human or ghost. Even the client is not trustworthy. What a bullshit rule. Mark doesn't believe in this set of rules. I won't agree. What can he do to me? Craven didn't get angry but said to Snart, for this mission, the client has deposited 50 million in deposits with a middleman. Their circle is a high-end criminal circle. Those who can enter it are not easy to mess with, so everyone is afraid that the other party will turn against them. So a special profession was born: criminal middleman. It is also called a service provider. They may be donors, or they may be high-ranking officials of a certain force. The only thing that is certain is that they have the power to make both parties to the transaction abide by their promises. Of course, service providers cannot work for free. They charge a fee. For example, the deposit just mentioned. The 50 million is called a deposit. But after the mission is over, it belongs to the service provider. Many times, service providers may not have to do anything to collect a large deposit. But not everyone is qualified to collect this money. Once a service provider loses his credibility, his credit will be gone, and he can no longer do this business because no one will believe him. What's more terrifying is that if you lose your credibility, who will believe that you will continue to keep the previous guarantee confidential? Then there will be endless troubles waiting for the service provider. Reddington, Snart asked with a sullen face. Of course, he is the best. Our customers are very careful, Craven still said with a smile, simple as an old farmer walking a bear in Russia. Mark once again touched upon a blind spot in his knowledge. Fuck. Can't you tell me something I know? What kind of middleman are you? Who the hell is Reddington? What's a middleman? Snart picked up the wine glass in front of him and drank a glass of wine fiercely. You've heard of his name, Red Devil. We met once before, have you forgotten? I introduced him. Mark's face gradually became silent. Is it him, Red Devil, the world's most wanted criminal? Well, before Nick Fury. He's the most wanted criminal in the United States, and has been on the top of the wanted list by various intelligence agencies in the United States for 20 years. But he is better at hiding than Bin Laden. For so many years, there have been a lot of news about him, but no one has ever really caught him. Snart knew Red Devil, and in fact, he had done a lot of business with Red Devil. So he knew him well. Red Devil's real name is Raymond Reddington, a former U.S. military intelligence officer. In 1982, Reddington, who had a promising future in the U.S. military, suddenly defected, and then a Red Devil appeared in the world. He handles all kinds of transactions for criminals all over the world, brokers illegal businesses, and is known as the administrator of the criminal world. Let's put it this way, he intervenes in all businesses that are not related to legality, including but not limited to money laundering, drug trafficking, military trafficking, human trafficking, and organ trafficking. As long as it is a profitable business, he will get involved. He has a wide network of contacts. He knows all the dictators in this world and can talk to them at any time. All transnational gangs are in contact with him. In addition, although all American intelligence agencies are looking for him, in fact, all American intelligence agencies have connections with Reddington. In addition, the KGB of Russia, the Mossad of Israel, and the British Military Intelligence Department all have strong connections with him. But at the same time, none of the above people want to catch Reddington. But in the past 20 years, he has not only not disappeared, but has thrived. Speaking of which, you may not believe that he has been wanted by the United States for so many years, but he usually walks freely in and out of the streets of the United States and has never concealed himself. Many people speculate that this guy actually serves the US government. Otherwise, why is he so awesome? Do you really think those intelligence agencies are blind? This is a very godly person. He is considered a legend in the dark world. Some time ago, Reddington found Snart and asked him to rob a document from the bank. Snart naturally had nothing to hesitate about. Robbing a bank is his strong point. Not only can he make a fortune from the bank, but Reddington can also give him another sum of money later. There is no reason to refuse. It was also at that time that Mark met Reddington. Snart told them about Reddington at that time, so Mark had an impression. You know Reddington's methods. He will not give up 50 million because of you. He has a very good reputation. A good reputation means that he has never broken his promise. This is very important. Mark was silent. Although he was arrogant, he didn't think he was invincible. You have to know that Reddington is a man who will not give up until he achieves his goal. He will do whatever it takes. If you really want to fight him, you have to be careful of everything. You might get poisoned when you eat a hamburger, and the gas might explode when you drink water. Reddington takes money to guarantee this mission. Once we hear the content of the mission and don't do it, he will judge that we are in danger of leaking information, and he will do whatever it takes to eliminate us. I didn't want to leak information, at least Mark didn't think about it at this time. It doesn't matter. As long as you have this possibility, it will be a threat to Reddington. This is the middleman. They don't take money for nothing. They will ensure that the transaction will not be affected by problems between the client and the client, Craven said with a smile. Chapter 1574 Little Monster. To be honest, Mark is not afraid of that kind of head-on battle. At most he will die. But he can't adapt to Reddington's style of assassination and sneak attack. And Snart knows Reddington better than Mark. Indeed, Mark and he both have some special abilities, and ordinary people will never be their opponents. If they are careful, those professional killers will not be a big problem for them. But Snart knows very well that people with special abilities are not all in the United States, and even if they are in the United States, Snart believes that Reddington must know such people. Reddington's special identity and background destined him to be different from ordinary criminals. He has too many resources to use. Even if Reddington wants, he can even use the special personnel of those intelligence agencies to deal with them. It just so happens that he and Mark are both wanted criminals. I believe that those intelligence agencies are happy to add one more credit to their credit book while trading with Reddington. After all, it is absolutely legitimate for them to kill Mark and him. So when Mark, the idiot, shouted that sentence, the result was determined. Don't look so sad. It's not that bad. Craven put his arm around Snart's shoulders and laughed. Don't touch me. You know I don't like to be so close to people. Snart first threw away Craven's arm on his shoulder, and then said, it's not that bad? Haha, do you believe that? Snart turned his head and stared at Mark. Hunter Craven, this guy is a famous Lone Ranger. Do you know why? Craven shrugged and didn't comment on Snart's statement. Mark looked at Craven and said, why? It's not that he doesn't want to share the mission rewards with others, but this guy likes to enjoy the thrill of hunting. The stronger the prey, the more he likes to hunt alone slowly, even if it takes a long time, even if it is dangerous, he never gets tired of it. So he doesn't like to team up with others, because it will affect his hunting. After saying that, Snart glanced at Craven coldly. Only Mark, this idiot, was still asking, what do you mean? Snart sighed. He now realized that he should find a smarter partner in the future? Not so good. Jesse is a smart guy. Damn. Why did I form a gang of rogues in the first place? Huh? What I mean is that this bastard found that the prey this time was too powerful for him to deal with, so he asked for cooperation. Think about the reward for the mission. Up to 500 million. 500 million. What the hell can you do to make 500 million in one go? You can't make that much from drug trafficking. According to the current market price, a kilogram of cocaine is worth about $40,000, and a ton is only 40 million. 500 million US dollars can buy 12.5 tons of drugs according to the US market price. This is not counting the cost. And this is just a reward for a mission. Just think about how dangerous this mission is. So this guy knows that he can't handle it alone, so he asked for someone. Do you understand? Idiot. Mark understood now. He didn't have time to care about Snart calling him an idiot. Damn. They were fooled. He glared at Craven. Craven shrugged. Don't look at me like that. You've been tricked, which means you're just like that. That's how it is in our business. If you lose, you have to admit it. Mark turned his head and looked at Snart. Now he listened to Snart. Snart ignored him. What was he doing earlier? He sighed and said to Craven. Tell me, bastard. What's the mission? Craven laughed even more happily. Nothing, like I said, just catching a cub. Don't tell such a lame joke here. Tell me, what cub is it? It can't be a few cubs of Kai Wayne, right? Haha, if that's the case, I will never participate. On the contrary, I will go directly to Kai and tell him that Reddington wants to kidnap his daughter. Tisk, 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 then Reddington will have a lot of fun. His connections are useless to people like Kai. Craven listened and laughed. Your proposal is indeed very challenging. Maybe I will do it one day. But unfortunately, it's not. After all, No one is so bored that they will spend 500 million to make themselves suffer. Since Kai Wayne became famous, there has actually been a bounty on him in the dark world. But there is no big order. After all, no big shot will find a killer to deal with Kai. It's too uneconomical. Once failed, there will be endless troubles. After all, Kai Wayne is not a poor man. He is one of the richest people in the world. He should be thankful that he doesn't spend money to assassinate others. What's more, he is a savior who has saved the world more than once. His reputation is actually very good. No one would make himself a public enemy. In addition, Kai himself has great power, so it is really difficult to deal with him. You should know that the base of the High Table, the first killer organization in the dark world, in New York was uprooted by Kai and his friends, and the High Table pretended not to know. You can't afford to offend. So except for some idiots who don't understand the situation, no one goes back to offer a reward for Kai. What's more regrettable is that few rich people are idiots. However, Snart didn't give face, and didn't mean to laugh at all. He just stared at Craven. Okay, you have no sense of humor. Craven restrained his smile, and then said, a Titan cub. Snart took a breath. Fuck. I knew it. Mark didn't react, and looked confused. Snart sighed again. Damn, there's only a piece of rotten garlic left under his hand. I can only explain. Titan, the big monster. The one that destroyed the whole of Miami. Fuck. Are you crazy? Mark understood, and then he began to not understand. Who would go back to find that thing? Isn't it good to be alive? The whole of Miami is destroyed. It is said that the price of drugs in the whole United States has increased because of this. Although with the decline of the Colombian drug cartel, the drug route from the Caribbean Sea to Miami into the United States has suffered a major blow and has gradually been replaced by the drug trafficking route across the Mexican border. But it still cannot replace the importance of the city of Miami. It became the center of drug trafficking and criminal activities in the 1970s and 1980s. Because there are many Latin American gangs there, drug trafficking is still rampant, and although the sea transportation route is weak, it is not completely dead. There will still be a lot of drugs coming ashore from Miami. With Miami turned into ruins, this route is completely cut off. Maybe the new Miami in the future will be better. An entire city was razed to the ground. That thing is a walking nuclear warhead. This madman actually wanted to take that thing. Mark wanted to kill him right now and then run away. At least they could lie for a long time before Reddington killed them. Hey. Calm down, calm down. I'm not that crazy. Craven said quickly, I'm not looking for trouble with those big guys. Please think about what I said before, we should at least catch a cub. How? What's the difference between this and going straight to those big guys? Snart sneered. In fact, he didn't believe Craven was so crazy. Of course there is a difference. And the difference is huge, Craven said. I can tell you that this time when we are looking for cubs, we won't encounter big monsters. Our opponents are only humans and those small monsters. It looks like you have detailed information. Snart squinted at Craven. Of course. Information is life. Chapter 1575. First update, please give me the guaranteed monthly ticket. Of course, we can't talk business in a bar. Although it's daytime and there's no one in the bar, it's impossible to talk here either. Craven took the two to a hunting lodge. Why not a hotel? Haha, let me tell you a fact. Hotels are even less safe than bars. The more upscale the hotel, the more so. Who knows how many eavesdropping monitors are installed there? Do you know why criminals like to trade in the wilderness or abandoned buildings? Of course it's not because of the cost. If you're committing a crime and you haven't made a huge profit, then why are you committing a crime? So the cost of trading in high-end clubs can actually be ignored for criminals. What really matters is safety. No one wants their crime to be filmed. And who installed the monitors and eavesdropping monitors in those hotels? There are too many suspects. It could be the police, it could be the intelligence agency, it could be the hotel, it could be a pervert, or even some idiot employee of the hotel who did it himself to make extra money. The uncertainty is too high. On the contrary, the wilderness is the best. No one has eaten too much and it's impossible to do something wrong in such a place. Take a look. Craven took out a round plate and threw it on the table. A virtual screen immediately appeared on the table. There was the information on it. The equipment has been upgraded, Snart commented casually. Ha ha ha. Bullshit upgrade. You know me, I still prefer traditional hunting, high technology is not suitable for me. Craven laughed. This is given by the client. I heard that there is a self-destruct device to ensure that intelligence will not be leaked. Unexpectedly, Mark waved his hand. I can't read. Just tell us. Craven was shocked. He looked at Snart in surprise. Unexpectedly, Snart nodded, indicating. This guy is really right, he really can't read. Don't be surprised. When you hear that the United States is the world's #1 power, you think that the United States really has a high quality of people. Facts often go against common sense. The literacy rate of American adults is about 86%, ranking 134th in the world. The United States has the lowest literacy rate and the highest illiteracy rate among developed countries. There are 32 million illiterate people or 50 million functional illiterates in the United States. Functional illiterate means having the ability to read, write or calculate, but lacking the ability to use these abilities to handle certain daily life affairs. Daily life affairs refers to things such as reading newspapers, looking up dictionaries, reading bus timetables, understanding instructions, filling out applications, etc. It is not surprising that Mark is illiterate. The smaller the place, the more illiterate people there are, and there are very few in big cities. Okay, Craven really saw it. Our target this time is Scylla, Craven said. Mark is excited now. I know, that squid spider, men, like big monsters and robots, it's simply their nature. If you give Mark an excavator now, he can watch it all day. So he really knows a little about those big monsters. Yes, it's the squid spider. Scylla is the one that looks like a mixture of spider, octopus, and conch, with 6 huge and slender legs, and its body is disproportionate to its limbs. A monster with an octopus-like head and a conch-like shell on its body. Craven grinned. Mark's description was really vivid. Now the big spider is sleeping in Black Rock Mountain State Park. According to the employer's information, it laid several eggs before it fell asleep. Then, without anyone knowing, these eggs hatched and are wandering in Black Rock Mountain State Park. After the Titan War, Kai couldn't send these monsters back to the center of the earth because they were too conspicuous. After Godzilla became the king of monsters, he ordered the Titans to continue sleeping. Kai doesn't need to care about them, and they will continue to sleep until the end of time. After all, the current environment is really not suitable for them. They like an environment full of radiation in the air. In today's world, they will only feel uncomfortable, and it is better to sleep. And Scylla is sleeping in Black Rock Mountain State Park. Black Rock Mountain State Park is located in Georgia. It is named for the dark black mica and ice cliffs. The scenery here is extremely beautiful. The most beautiful village near Georgia's Blue Ridge Mountains is located here. The park straddles the Eastern Continental Divide and is 3,640 feet, 1,109 meters, above sea level. It is the highest state park in Georgia. It is also the most prestigious hiking resort in the entire state. From the observation deck on Black Rock Mountain, you can enjoy the charming scenery of the southern Appalachian Mountains that stretches for 80 miles. Then choose one of the 4 trails and set off to the top of the mountain. Walk through clusters of blooming mountain flowers, listen to the gurgling streams, and occasionally welcome a small waterfall, and then go deep into the dense forest. There are endless breathtaking views along the way. Black Rock Mountain State Park covers an area of 1,743 acres, about 10,581 acres, including a 17-acre, 103-acre, lake in the park. The park is well equipped with 10 country houses, 44 sites for tent trailers and RVs, 12 walking campsites, 4 rural campgrounds, a pioneer campground, a playground and a visitor center. You can participate in various outdoor activities, such as camping, fishing, treasure hunting, hiking, boating, picnicking and photography. Of course, none of these exist now. Due to the arrival of Scylla, all human activities here have been stopped. Because of Scylla's characteristics, the average temperature in the entire state of Georgia has dropped by 3 degrees. The temperature near the park is even lower, and the park lake has completely turned into an ice lake. Scylla is sleeping under the ice lake. According to scientists' estimates, this ice lake will only exist for about a dozen years before it returns to normal. As Scylla falls into deep sleep, its impact on the outside world will gradually slow down. But in order not to disturb the sleep of this big monster, the government has blocked the entire state park and stopped all large industrial facilities nearby. Just afraid of waking it up. In fact, it's not worth it. At first, Scylla was sleeping under the oil fields in Arizona. Even though the oil fields were being mined, it was not awakened. However, The tragedy in Miami gave everyone a huge warning. At least the people in Georgia were unwilling to wake up this big guy. You said that the government blocked the place. If there really were Scylla cubs, wouldn't they catch them and study them themselves? Snart discovered a bright spot in the information. Although Snart rarely dealt with the government, he didn't believe that the government could really sit there and watch such a dangerous thing without moving. Never underestimate the ability of humans to commit suicide. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.